without further ado, let's go.
I had a funny one too when I went. So we were talking about the fight that happened in the 500s, but on my way to 500s, I took the elevator down, and so I see the security guard. And obviously, he's in this little like elevator shaft. He's not watching the game. He sees nothing. So I was like, oh man, like he's like, how the Jays do? I'm like, oh, they're coming back, right? It was like 7-3 at this point. They just had that 3-run inning, and he's like, oh, cool. How many quarters left? I literally looked at him. I was like, bro, really? You work for the Jays? He's like, what? What do you mean? I was like, quarters? Yeah, how many quarters are left? We had half? I was like, all right, bro. There's like 9 innings, bro. I don't know what to tell you. So random, but... I was saying this on the way in there. I noticed this like maybe a year or two ago. Blue Jays have the most eclectic fan base by far in terms of people. Maybe baseball in general, but like baseball games, you'll see families, you'll see kids, you'll see young professionals. You'll see old dudes who keep score. You will see hipsters. You will see... punk rock, like you will see every... The old people with the earbuds in are the best. Like
listen to the game.
Yeah, listen to like the radio broadcast.
Yeah.
And they have the book in front of them. Like it's not on the Jumbotron every inning, right? Like wild.
Yeah, the craziest group of fans.
But Toronto sports fans, annoying as hell.
Yeah.
It's like the most recent success has come in the last like decade, and it's brought everyone out of the woodwork. But like we were at a Raptors game, and Vlad Jr. was seated no further than from me to you, Rick.
Oh yeah,
because he was down kind of courtside, and then he came and moved to seats like right next to us,
literally like that close.
And all I said to George is like, "You see who's beside us?" He's like, "No, who?" And like he just looks over past me. He's like, "Oh shit." And I said, during a timeout, maybe go say something. I'll take a picture of you talking to him, but I won't don't go ask him for a picture. So George goes, says something to him. He's like, whatever. Comes, sits back down, and then two people behind us. Oh, who is that? And we're like, what do you mean? They're like, it's nobody. And they're like, no, that must be someone. Why'd you go say hi to him? He's like, oh, it's just a friend. And then they're like, yeah. And then finally you can see them start Googling stuff and like looking at things. And then all of a sudden he comes up on the big screen, like Vlad Jr., Toronto Blue Jays. Yeah. And 20 people come line up, take a photo with him. And the guy's just trying to watch the game. He went
during the play too.
It was in the third quarter by that point. So he went 3 quarters without being noticed. Until he came and sat beside us, and George it
was his first. It was like he just had got called up, I think, and Yanni called it. And I was like, I don't, Rick, you guys, Yanni. No, we told this last time. I'm the biggest fanboy of Toronto sports.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, you don't bother a guy when he's enjoying the game, and his English was at this point, even now, it's not the best.
He didn't speak English,
but yeah, he barely spoke. He was with, I think, a guy, maybe it's his translator or a friend. I walked over. I'm like, hey, like, nice to meet you. Good luck with the season. I went sat back down. But to your point, like, I was actually saying to somebody at DB yesterday because the wave started going around. And I was like, and we've been to a lot of games in America. I don't think I've ever seen the wave besides Canada, like in Toronto specifically.
Well, also, like, at no point in that game was it appropriate to do the wave. We were down 7-0, and then we were down 7-0, and then in the span of two innings, we caught up, and so it's a tie game. Then we're up 1 run, opening day. Yeah. Like, at no point in that game was it appropriate.
And there was up 1 run, and we started the wave.
The only time it's appropriate to do a wave is like...
blowout.
A 7-0 blowout when the dome's open on a sunny day.
Yeah.
Dome's not open, don't do the wave. That's like rule number 1. You're losing, don't do the wave. Close game, don't do the wave.
But then what's going to happen to those heroes who only go to the game to turn around and try and get everyone to do the wave?
It's so that should have been retired back in the 90s when it was like the Mexican wave, right? During the US World Cup is when it basically became a thing.
I knew Yanni would know how this. I knew Yanni would know how this started.
94 World Cup, right?
So the wave started in 94.
Tell us this. I should know.
I just know it was like the Mexican wave. It's probably even further back from that, but that's where it got its roots from. And that's when, like, think about 94. Baseball is in like lockout. So then when it comes back, it's like a new thing for big stadiums to start doing. This is my assumption, but I know it came from the World
started
Cup. The Mexican team had a huge
World Cup,
following.
Not 94.
Was it 92?
In the U.S., right?
Yeah, so whatever that one was. Yeah.
I think it was, or maybe you're right.
No,
Anyways,
94. 98 is a World Cup.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Sorry.
So that one, the Mexican team had a huge following because it was right in the States. It was the first one they could really travel for. And it was like the Icelandic team with their clap, which now everyone at TFC does.
Yeah.
Which is like, go get your own thing. Like Danny Dichio has been gone for like almost 2 decades now too. Like, come on. But yeah, it's just, I don't like Toronto sports fans. There's very few.
The clap is sick. Like for Iceland.
It's so cool.
But Yanni makes a point. I said it. I was actually talking to my girlfriend's family about this because it was happening the Team Canada game, and I was like, you guys know, like, Iceland did this in the World Cup.
It's theirs.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Because they start. It's like the Viking thing, whatever.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know if that's actually it,
I
but
have no idea. I barely watched that.
you're right,
one,
Iceland
but like, it was
started
like fantastic. That's a great thing for your. The population there is smaller than the population of like
Ontario,
Mississauga
yeah.
and like on not just
Probably-
Ontario, like
probably
it's-
smaller than it's Mississauga's a million people.
And that's where they come back and like starts how they celebrate it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. But Toronto sports fans are just weak. Even like I listened back to our last episode, and even then I was saying like back when the Raptors were in like the finals that everyone would cheer like the first 4 buckets, losing their mind, and then their energy is just like done.
Well, even yesterday, like, look, Barrios had a slow start. Okay, obviously it was terrible. Terrible. The guy got lit up.
Slow start.
But the thing is, you're booing. It's the first inning. There's 162 games. 162 times 9 is what? 100. I mean,
Now let's save that one. We don't have Danielle here to fact check.
it's like
and calculate.
1,000,
It's a lot.
1,500
It's a
innings
lot.
or
It's
something.
1,444, isn't it?
There you go. There's 1,444 innings.
Something like that.
And you're booing after the first. Like, we are projected to finish like top 4 in the league.
They're the third. They're tied for the third best
Projection.
odds to win the
Like,
World Series.
And you're booing after 1 inning. Like, give me a break. Like, anyway, I'm
Did
not
I
gonna
the
get
pivot?
into this.
Did I tell you the parlay that I made? Yanni, I think knows this. Did I tell you?
Yeah, I think
I put a parlay in the other day before the season started.
Does it also include Tiger winning the Masters?
No, this is crazier. So I had some money in my Bet365 account. I put $25 on the 3-team parlay: Jays to win World Series, Raptors to win the NBA championship, Leafs to win Stanley Cup. Do you know what the payout is on a $25 bet?
I'm gonna go ahead and guess $50,000.
$114,000. Now, okay,
I
the
thought,
downs.
I thought
the-
my guess was good.
Pretty good. The odds are insane because the Raptors are the heavy underdog. Leafs are plus 900, Jays are like plus 800, and the Raps are like plus 5,000. Something like that. And I don't know what those numbers mean. So, but the only like the Leafs won't win, but like they have a chance. They have a chance. The Jays obviously have a very good chance. The Raps, I don't think, do. But man, like I don't know. You never know. Anyways,
I
hopefully,
think, well, hang on, just because we talked about this like last month, like to play the lottery. Like, what does a lottery have to be for you to actually go spend like $20 to like get like the lotto?
this is
max
actually
or
a good
anything?
talking point.
Because John, I think yours was nothing lower than 60 million. Would you even bother?
Well, yeah.
with,
So,
right?
well, the idea is the likelihood of you guessing the number never changes
yeah.
because it's a set number with set permutations or whatever.
Look, comfy John looks too, eh? John
I'm very
looks
comfortable.
comfy, eh?
I'm very comfy.
Guys,
with
want
this
to
couch.
interject and not to kill the vibe and the pace of this. This is off to a much better start than the
Yeah.
last. We were all so like, it's just a slow back and forth in the last one. This is I'm like when this is going right now.
John,
Speaking of the
John
last
is
one, I
so-
think I have
John's
to take
just-
back my hot take on Russell Wilson. Definitely elite quarterback now.
wait,
Because you were saying
say that for-
Denver
yeah, John,
Broncos.
Wait, I want to hear that. I don't
Stick to
know
your
what.
point.
I don't remember that. I didn't listen.
Yeah,
I haven't
yeah,
listened.
well,
Anyway, so back to the
lottery.
lottery. If the likelihood of getting the numbers never changes, it's only in your favor to play when it's a high jackpot.
Okay.
So that's why I only play the lottery when it's like at its max,
Okay.
which
guess
is I
that
think like
makes
60.
sense.
Now it's 70. So, but I still play at 60.
Your risk is always the same, but it's what your reward is.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get it.
What's yours, Jan?
I don't
Do you
know.
play all the time or not?
man, yeah, all the time. It's
Really?
Like I don't think
Because yeah,
I've
you're low
used
key like a
cash-
dad already.
I don't think
dad
I've used
already.
cash on anything but a lottery ticket in the last 2 years. Like
Do you get 649 and Lotto Max every week?
It just depends.
Oh.
Like it depends on the day of the week. If it's like the pick is like if it's like the same day it's coming out, I'll be like, I don't want to wait, so whatever, I'll buy that.
But you go into the convenience store and buy, or do you do it online? No, if you do cash,
I
then you
always go to the
store.
convenience store. Like if I'm walking my dog, there's a convenience store around the corner.
Yeah,
They'll
that's
let me
true.
take him inside, and it's like if
That's
I just randomly had like cash on me in my jacket or something, I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna go buy a lottery ticket.
That's my dad. My dad plays the lottery every single week, and I'm like, Dad, if you win, what are you gonna do? Oh, I'm like, how would your life change?
I
You win-
know-
I'm like,
I know
Frank,
what
you
I'm
win
gonna
50
do.
million. I'm like, Frank, you win 50 million. What are you gonna do? Oh, I'll probably just put it in the bank.
Your dad would work. Your dad would spend a dime of it.
he would actually buy the full version of
You know what I
solitaire.
told? You know what, actually, I'm gonna
He would
tell
buy
you-
another company that
No,
he could run.
Do you know what I told?
Yeah.
So I was like, Dad, this is when Cass. I'm like, Dad, Cass sells for $1 billion. You know, I got 400 million. I'm gonna give you 100 mil as a thank you. What are you gonna do with it? 100 mil is enough to retire. Like, and then
100 mil is enough for any human being.
Yeah.
If you could be 12 years old and you can retire.
Yeah.
100
So-
mil is enough for you, your
Yeah.
unborn
Yeah.
grandchildren to retire.
So,
yeah. It's a,
I
that's
go
a
to him
lot.
and I'm
not
like-
a 60-year-old
so-
man who is
You know what I
comfortable
told him?
enough. Like,
So I'm like, what would you do with it? He goes, I don't know. I'm like, you want to buy anything? He goes, I'd buy a plane. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, and I'd rent it out. I'd start a business. I was like, are you kidding me? I'm giving you 100 million. You're going to start a business with it. Yeah, think about how cool that would be. I'm like, all right, Dad.
He doesn't even want to ride it. All
I
right,
think
looks
it was-
like fun.
Well, you know what his second option was? An Aston Martin. So I'm like, you go from 10 million to 300,000, 200,000. There's no middle ground on him, man.
I
think a plane's more than 10 million.
Oh yeah,
I'm pretty sure. Like, so when we went to the
private-
Bombardier,
I know
we
what
went
a
to the
private
Bombardier
jet.
event.
What's a PJ?
They,
A private jet, a G. What do they call? They're
They
not
got
G6,
10-person
a G7.
a 10-person one.
They're about $40 to $50 million to buy brand new.
Oh shit. Okay.
Because I remember there was a story of Dan Bilzerian buying a used one, but he refurbished it and talked about it on a podcast, and it cost him. Like, he talked about the fact that he still came. It was almost the same as buying a brand new one, where he paid like $20 million for his, and then he spent 20. You have to get everything. If you refurbish a plane, you have to like build. If you build a couch, you have to make like 50 couch versions of it because they have to fire test it. Like, they have to run it through all these different things.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
So you have to. Yeah, I don't know. If it's 50
not if
versions.
Not if it's a Boeing.
Yeah. Wait. You guys.
You guys see the documentary?
Oh yeah.
How they cut corners, left, right, and center.
You seen it?
No, I didn't watch
The
it.
737
I
Max.
mean, it came out right before I was about to get on a plane, and I was like, I'm on a Boeing 767. I was like, no, thank you.
Max?
Actually, random. Would you ever be scared of a plane going down?
I mean,
absolutely.
I'm
I mean,
not
like,
at all.
okay, like,
Sorry, absolutely.
yeah. I mean, intelligently, you know that like there's gonna be less plane crashes than there is like car accidents. Like everyone has said, it's safer to fly than it is to drive. That said, I don't want to go on a 737.
I would.
I don't know if
I actually had like I
the
had
plane
that,
goes down, it's instant. Boom. You don't think.
But I
It's
had
gone,
that-
You're gone.
I had that. I don't know about that. Okay.
Bro, it's instant death.
Okay,
Instant.
instant death, but you know it takes a while to fall from like 40,000
Have you seen Yellow
feet.
Jackets?
No.
Oh,
the soccer team one.
Yeah.
No. You think you told me to watch?
it is very good, but kind of.
I mean,
beside
you,
the
you,
Yeah.
you read the story like Alive,
Alive.
the Miracle in the Andes, which is
We talked about it on the podcast.
Yeah,
I
with
with
think.
the Argentinian rugby team. Right?
Yeah, Argentinian rugby team that crashed in the Andes.
And they didn't die until someone ate
Half,
their ass.
I think half
like,
of them died.
See, even better. They
And
don't die.
It's also not a given that it's instant death. Like there are plenty of painful ways to die in a plane crash.
You never know.
I feel like that's a big explosion.
Well, hit the. Anyways,
Depends, yeah.
Anyways,
Anyways.
I
Yeah,
want to
before we get
go
dark.
to the lottery point because I don't know who said it, and I actually this is kind of a good segue because I think Warren Buffett said it that it's like the biggest it's the biggest waste of money like scam.
it's the biggest tax on the poor.
Tax. That's what he says.
Yeah.
Tax on the poor, because essentially you're just giving your money to the government for free. The odds of you winning are like infinitesimal. Like
Yeah, but
I
you
mean,
don't
whatever.
have to.
I know,
Tax, you
but
have
but
to
do you
pay.
know? And this could be wrong. I don't want to say Danielle's not here, but I'm pretty sure the
I'll
lottery
check.
started. The mob used to run the lottery, and then the government took it over because the reason I think this might be true, and I can't. Someone look it up if you can, because in Joey Diaz, the comedian, always talks about this when he was living in Jersey that. He used to buy these, like, you buy tickets or whatever, the numbers, the weekly numbers, and they were run through, like, the bars. Naturally, the bars, probably connection to the mob, and it was, I think the mob ran it, if I'm not mistaken. It was, like, illegal bookies and stuff. And then I think the governments wanted to realize an opportunity to make money, so that I think they brought it in-house. I think,
There could be
Looking
things
it
like
up?
that, but I
So
feel like
here, this
vague?
is yeah. So the first modern lottery in the United States was launched with the
Probably during
debut
World
of the
War
new New Hampshire sweepstakes, now known as the New Hampshire Lottery. The original game was based on the results of a horse race, and the first tickets were sold in March 12th, 1964.
I think
yeah.
it was started that.
I
But
mean,
yeah, it
there's
is.
definitely
It's,
things like that.
it is. I don't know. I used to buy them pretty often. I've stopped buying lottery tickets. Every now and then I might go get one. But what I wanted to ask you guys, when you see a big number and you buy a lottery ticket, do you always think about like, oh, what would I do if I got this money?
If you ask
Every
Hannah,
damn time.
Smiling.
if
so
you
much.
ask Hannah how many times we drive by and like it's the billboard and it'd be like today's Lotto Max 55 million, I'd be like, okay, 55 million. Here's how it goes.
40 into investments.
Well, there's like a thing online that basically goes around like how winning the lottery is a curse, and here's what you should really do. Where basically the first thing you do is you tell nobody, and then the second thing you do is you find a lawyer that will then like basically help you either protect your identity if you want to go claim it. Because that's what I think about. I'm the only person in the world with my name that I could like find on Google. So if my name is like Yanni Boutsalis is a lottery winner, it's not like John Smith. You're like, which John Smith? It's like there's only one of me. So
George Boutsalis. You don't know who won.
yeah.
It's like seven of us.
It would be so easy to track me down, find me, and then find my information specifically. So that's why I think about it. I'm like, that's a kind of a curse because it'd be so easy to spot me kind of thing.
I think
right?
Ricky and I are the only ones with our names as well.
Yeah. But it's also like even if it was first name, last initial, there's not a lot of people that spell even Yanni the way I spell it. So
with
it would
an
make
S.
it even and with an I before the A and like whatever. So it's even more rare.
Wait,
like
the people don't spell with the I before the A?
like YANNI, YANNIS.
Isn't that
YANNI?
Yiannis, a bunch of different versions.
Yeah. So it's like it
Or
makes
G,
it,
sometimes with
so
a G,
I always
like
think about it, I was
Giannis-
like, okay, if I won $50 million I had it in my lap, what do I need to do? Like that's ever gonna happen. But then I think, okay, I take like half the money and set up like a trust and just let it grow. Because then you don't have to worry about touching it. Then the other half is like, okay, whoever has debt is no more. Like you could basically change. Like we have like so many first cousins, family members. I could basically just be like, you guys have no debt. Congrats, like done.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
And then I buy a nice car and just don't work again.
You wouldn't work if you won?
No, I don't think so.
See, I think I would work.
I would find something
I think
to
I would find a
actually
company
do.
to buy something I enjoy and then run that company. I don't think I could sit and I'm saying this as someone who's traveled. Like I traveled a fair amount. I basically lived like I was retired for a year in the middle of like my prime years. It gets boring after a while. Doing nothing. And I do what I love. I sat around like walking, running, and reading. Like my favorite things to do, truthfully, and traveling. It gets boring fast.
I mean, I'd find something to actually go into that I would actually want to put time and effort into, but like I'd adopt some more dogs. I'd have like a nicer house, like that, like actually have them in. There's not like a lot that.
I think I'm maxed out at 2.
Yeah,
Dogs?
John,
Two,
what-
that's a lot. That's
John,
a lot.
what would you do
Put
if
your
you got
mic
50
a little
mil?
bit, like keep it, make sure it stays in front of you.
I would probably golf 364 days a year.
Yeah?
Yeah, I can see that actually.
Just so retire in golf. Try and be a pro
And he has
golfer.
enough money to fix his rotator cuff whenever it goes, because it's probably going to go at that point.
I think
playing
my
that
back
often.
and knee would go first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you'd get Tiger
You'd
Woods
retire.
guy.
Rick would travel.
Yeah, I'd travel and buy some sort of sports team, depending on how much I won. If I won enough to buy a sports team, I'd buy a sports team.
You wouldn't have enough to buy a major league sports.
You'd
No,
I'd
no,
buy-
but I can buy an OHL team or something.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say.
buy
like
like the Barry Colts
or like a farm
something.
team of some second division or something. Farm team of
Yeah.
like a baseball farm team or like a second division soccer
It'd be
team.
pretty cool to own like a AAA team.
I mean,
No,
Yanni
no.
said that.
Oh, baseball, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
we
Yanni
said
and
it'd
I-
be sick to have like a double A or like a.
Yeah.
Like, have you
Yeah.
guys seen the
A stadium that holds like 1,000, 2,000 people. So like when it's playoffs and it's busy, it's still a vibe. But like you know,
Have
if
you
you
guys
got a
seen that,
couple
that
hundred,
team, the
dead.
Bananas, that's been like on Twitter and
yeah,
Banana
I've seen-
Ball?
yeah.
That's what I'd want to do.
That's crazy,
That
though.
looks like so much fun.
I can't tell. Is it real baseball? Or is it like Harlem Globetrotter shit?
It's all exhibition games for the team before they go to the real season, so they change the rules. Because I was even looking at it, I was like, "How's a 70-year-old dude coming out of the stands with a beer and pitching?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "This is so cool." But that's what I'd want.
How's a guy going to bat
so
like
fun.
tarpless? Like
I would-
guy's
I
got
would
no
like-
shirt going to bat.
I would actually like that. That's what I'd want to do, because then you could like sign a friend for like a 1-day contract
Yeah.
and be like, "Yeah, congrats, you're like a
John, you know what we're talking
pro
about or no?
ball."
No idea.
So someone
So
explain to John.
There's a baseball team, the Bananas, that they basically play these exhibition games, what they call it, but like banana ball. So like, if you, yeah,
But
there's
they
just
tour
so
and
many
shit, yeah.
rules. They tour around. They do like all these exhibition games, but there's rules like basically even a walk, you still have to sprint to first base, or else you can get out. Or what is it on? No, on a walk, it's like if the ball can go, you can run the base as fast as you can, and the ball has to touch every single infielder before it gets back to the pitcher to stop the guy running the bases. So like if you get a walk, you can run, you can try to steal home, and the other team in the field has to get the ball between every single position player on the field before you get stopped.
So John, picture like recess baseball where you make up rules as you go, but played with like semi-pro athletes. So like Harlem Globetrotter stuff, like, you know, it's like it is technically real basketball,
have-
but it's like it's an entertainment thing.
They'll have
And
a
they
guy
sell
on
out.
stilts go up to bat, and so strike zone is like up here, but like, you know, at the roof, and then they have to try pitch him out. So everything's gonna be a ball.
And these guys will like, there's certain guys that'll go out there, literally crush a beer, take off their shirt, and go to bat.
Rick's ideal sport.
Bro, I'm just like, this is like made for me. Like you can hit like a two run home, like a 2-run single home run.
What is it?
If
Savannah
you hit it like
Bananas.
certain distance, it counts as 2.
Oh, it's like a distant shot.
Yeah.
I actually, okay, so I
Crazy.
want to ask him about the same topic because I was thinking about this yesterday. What sport that is not right now a major league sport will become a major league sport in the next, let's even say 2 decades. Let's say next like decade or 2.
In North
Like,
America, or?
I guess North America more so, because I would say like North America's newer than most of the world that sports can develop here, like a little
Is
bit more. Like,
soccer an acceptable answer?
but I think because MLS exists already, so like I think the
Cricket.
level they'll get to. But like that's what I'm saying. Will
I think
cricket become
rugby.
big in North America? Ultimate frisbee? Because I was thinking about this. Like there will be a league that crops up that right now, or even right now exists. That is, you know, like a hobbyist type league. maybe Ultimate Frisbee. Ultimate Frisbee is pretty big in the States.
So like the next MLS.
Exactly. Where you can get into it now, let's say, and it's like you can start a team and the league starts growing organically and it's on the map and people are paying to go see it in North America 10, 15, 20 years from
So
now.
do you think it's a league that already exists that's going to grow in popularity or something that doesn't exist? Like, are we talking about the NLL or?
That's what I don't know. That's what I'm wondering. I haven't put much thought
I was
into
thinking
it.
about this the other day actually, and I can't remember what it
I'm
was.
trying to think of what league to get interested in so I can maybe
I think it's
into
good.
a team.
I think it's gonna
Oh, so you want to be like hipster sports fan?
Yeah, so that way when that league gets
You
notoriety,
could say you were a fan of it before it was popular.
and maybe buying a team. Maybe by that point, if Yiannis won the lottery, I say Yanni, throw me a couple mil. We're gonna buy into this league before it kind of grows. But what sport do you think?
I think it
honestly?
is rugby because if you look, I was actually at the Toronto Wolfpack first game, like the actual opener of all time, and it was like $20 for 2 tickets. But that actually had some momentum to start to carry on, and it was literally a team playing here that had to go play the other half of its games across the ocean. And people were like, Ottawa was looking at grabbing a team to expand, and I think they're in a different league. Even
The
if
problem
there
is
one.
it's too dangerous rugby.
But that's the
Like,
thing. I think
concussions, like with the growing number of concussions and the more information we have, it's like you think about football. Football's the main contact sport in North America where like head injuries are like a big thing, right? And you even think like, I think we were talking about this in maybe 10, 20 years, like I think the number of people playing football might decrease just because of like the long-term side effects
Well,
of it,
football's worse than rugby for concussions.
right? Yes and no. Yes and no.
The fact that you have pads
makes you hit harder.
makes you hit harder.
Yeah.
So I think because it doesn't hurt you as much to hit. In rugby, it's
You'll
like
never
skin
lead
on
with your
skin.
head in rugby.
Yeah, and also there's no head-to-head contact in
Yeah,
rugby.
there's not, but still like people, you can literally throw someone into the ground.
I think
right?
more guys end up with like torn rotators and torn ACLs than head
You end
injuries
up-
in rugby. That's a guess, though. I don't know rugby well enough. I'm just assuming.
But I
Me
think
and John played
Ricky, I think
rugby.
you said cricket earlier.
Yeah, cricket.
I think that's actually a good
cricket.
answer.
I think is gonna be. I met the captain of the junior Team Canada national team in Houston.
What?
Yeah. So during my whole debacle of traveling last week or this week.
Remember Mr. Mountjoy
Yeah.
episode?
Yeah,
Shout out
missed him
Mountjoy.
out. Yeah, shout out Mountjoy. I missed that
What,
episode.
Matt?
So I was at the airport, right? And this dude in all Team Canada stuff, like probably about 16, 17, like Indian background, or that kind of background.
South Asian, yeah.
And so I look at him, I'm like, hey, what sport you play? He's like, cricket. And then I see on this pants says Canada Cricket. I was like, oh, you on the Team Canada? He's like, yeah, Team Canada junior team. I was like, sick. Are you good? He's like, oh, I'm all right. And Dad goes, oh, he's the captain. I was like, ah, sick, man. But yeah, so I think cricket is it's just the number of people playing in India is massive. It has a lot of similarities to a lot of sports that are already big in North America. Like baseball's a big sport. Okay, I'm not saying that cricket.
Wait, you said a lot of similarities to a lot of sports.
That's what I was about to ask.
Other than baseball.
I was like, what rules exist that I'm not aware of that is
Well,
comparable?
no, not rules, but just like the similarities. Okay, it's played outdoors. Okay, it's not indoors or on ice or anything, right?
Something I could say about cricket though is to organize it and to get the size you need, it's actually like a physically large size sport as well. Or when I say like rugby takes place on the same dimensions of a football or like a soccer field.
Isn't it a little bigger?
But cricket is like larger than a baseball stadium.
It's like the outfield of a baseball stadium, but all the way around the center, right?
So I don't think it's as like deep, but it's just as large of a footprint. So then if you think about it, the places for those places to come up, it's not.
Yeah,
it's
that's
fewer.
true,
It's fewer
actually.
and farther between.
Well, maybe they changed the rules.
But I mean,
right?
yeah, they could definitely
maybe
modify it.
baseball. Baseball's got different sized diamonds.
Yeah, but then that's like that. It's like a standardized field. It's not baseball. Baseball, like we even said, baseball stadiums are not standardized. It's like only between the bases, basically, and from home to the mound. But then the outfields and like
Change
between the lines
everywhere.
is the same. But then the outfield depth is different. But then so that's like that. It's caught on in the British places, like Australia. Cricket's still huge.
Yeah.
And like same with rugby. Like those things are large, but I think rugby has a chance. I think curling is gonna be like the winter thing that because you can play it year round.
It's a bold statement, Jan.
It's fun. It's like we were
Shout
talking
out Johnny
about before,
Moe,
like
though.
darts.
Yeah, I would love curling to be big because when I watched it, during the Olympics I watched it, and then the Briar Cup I watched. And man, during the Olympics, me and my dad were like watching. We were standing up in my kitchen. I was like, Dad, let's go to the living room. He's like, no, we were both eating. We ended up standing in front of the TV for the last 3 sets.
Ends?
Three.
The ends.
Yeah, when you change it,
Yeah.
it's like an inning almost, right?
An
You
end,
get 5,
yeah.
6 or whatever. So yeah, we ended up standing up for the last whole bunch of them, and we were standing at the TV watching because it was like crazy. Curling, I just think there's not enough curling in like major cities set up. It's like hockey's that ice sport, right?
Yeah, but you can set up a curling like a venue inside
hockey rink.
a conference center. which is like people have played in like basically like the Metro Toronto Convention Center can host a curling event, which is like it's very easy to scale it that way. It takes some size, but you can fit like 4 sheets of ice on like the same size as the NHL rink. So you have 4 places to compete. I just think about it. It has to be easily accessible to anybody. Curling, you don't need anything.
You need ice.
Yeah, you need ice, but think about it.
It takes out half the world.
But hang on, but once the field is there, what else do you need, right? If you cricket, so you need a cricket field to play.
Okay,
but
go
then
tell
what else do you
the
need?
pitch.
Go tell the whole continent of South America.
Guys, I think
to
we're
play
getting deep in the weeds here. I think they're both wrong.
Wait,
So
handball.
what is your thing?
I actually think ultimate frisbee. Now that I was thinking about this whole time, and ultimate frisbee is the most comparable to. Because I was going to say flag football maybe, but I don't think
it's
so.
already football.
That's right. Ultimate frisbee, you can be a track. Like there's a lot of guys. You can be like it's pretty fast paced. A lot of long runs, a lot of excitement, like diving catches, all that kind of thing.
I got one.
So I think that my thought right now is ultimate frisbee. I don't want to go too deep into this, but I do think ultimate frisbee.
The one with the net on the floor where you hit the ball.
Spike ball.
Spike ball. I'm calling it right now. Let's buy a spike ball team.
That's actually not a
ball?
bad guess, actually.
spike ball.
But
if it's gonna be like
It's cheap to
a
play.
sport,
It's
a
pretty-
sport that's going to be a
it's
major league,
exciting.
Plays in
it's
a
got to
small
be a
space.
team sport. So
Spike ball is teams. Teams of 2.
Okay, are you going to
plus
buy a
sub.
franchise for spike ball?
honestly, like it's like beach volleyball, but like
Better, cooler. It's cool. It's cool.
it's cool because you don't
Yo,
know how to
honestly,
play it
I
well.
know
And
how
you
to
watch.
play. I
and you
suck,
s-
but I
and
play
you
it.
see
It's
people
cool in the
playing
sense
it.
that like
I'm buying a fucking
pogos were
spike ball
cooler
team.
when
I'm buying a
we were
spike ball.
younger.
I'm going with you 50-50.
The Toronto.
I mean, like, what's a spike? Like, how do you buy a spike ball team? You can buy the thing for $100 at Walmart. Why do you need to buy a tee?
But that's what, because everybody can play it.
So then why do you? What's
Let me ask you. Let me
And
ask
then
you.
the best
Wait.
players-
I got an analogy. How many teammates are on a Formula One team?
2.
Boom.
You'd really.
I'm just kidding.
You really discount like
No,
you know, the
it's a
thousands
terrible
of
analogy,
people.
but it was an easy. I was just a segue to
No, but
Formula
like
One. there.
golf.
But you don't
Yeah.
own a team that you're playing as
Yeah,
individual
true,
player.
Okay.
Anyways, we're winning on the weeds in this one.
Yeah.
No, but there's
Well,
there's
Boys, I want to pivot to F1 though. I want to talk.
Well,
about
actually,
F1.
I can transition to that because when you were saying like football, less people are going to play.
these chocolates.
Because I had looked this up because someone had mentioned when they were watching Drive to Survive, they're like, why do they have to be so athletic? It's because like the constant like G forces you're put under on your turns and everything. Like one of the turns in Turkey, you're under like 4 to 5 Gs for a sustained like something like 8 seconds. Which is like that's like fighter pilot levels of stuff. But I was looking up what the comparable is in like football. But football, you're put under between 40 to 80 G's of force when someone tackles you for about like less than a second. 40 to 80 G's of like force on your body.
What?
Yeah, so 80 times.
it's almost like getting hit by a car.
80 times your weight is like the pressure put onto your body. So imagine.
Formula One is only 4 times your weight though.
Yeah,
There's more.
But that's like a sustained for
But it's-
50
yeah, it's
laps.
sustained. It's
so
like versus
your
an
head,
impact.
in your helmet might be like 3 pounds, but then it turns into like 15 pounds on one turn, and you're doing that 50 times to be like turned around, and your body's like.
Do you ever see the
slamming.
training they do when they have like bands around their necks and they're like holding it at a set thing, or when they're trying to like turn that really heavy
yeah.
wheel?
They're sweating like crazy. Sorry, I'm opening this wrapper, guys. Yanni bought me chocolate.
the
Pretty epic chocolate company. I'll tell you guys more in a minute.
yeah, we're gonna do a spike ball team.
I mean, it's only 2 people on a spike ball team, is it not?
How expensive?
Yeah.
Expensive could it be to own a spike ball team?
But it's like if you and George played, you're a team. You don't have
But
to
yeah,
ball.
it wouldn't be like a franchise team. It would just be 2 players.
Just go get
like
get
it
a
wouldn't be
hat
like
made.
it wouldn't be
I don't know.
like the Toronto Maple Leafs of spike ball. It would be
the pals.
John and Joe Smith.
Yeah, but you can make it a team.
Because like Team Ferrari.
It would be a
Start
team.
making- you
It
start
would be
making
a team like the way like D-Generation X and WWE was a team.
That was a fucking
Sweet
team.
team.
Yeah, where are they now? Like,
Bro, fucking on the Hall of Fame of wrestling.
I don't like eating on podcasts, but I
No,
got.
just move the mic away. You're fine.
I know, but I gotta give a shout out to Yanni. Yanni brought me these chocolates. They're from a company called C's Candy. You guys
Ooh,
know?
that's a
You
free
guys know
plug.
what C's Candy is? This definitely does not need a plug. They don't need any help. C's Candy is one of the first companies, right? That Warren Buffett bought.
Yeah.
oh yes, I do
C's
know that.
Candy. He talks about it like it's one of his things. Like he always talks about. He keeps them when he does his annual his annual shareholders meeting. He keeps them on the table. They're peanut brittle. He eats it. It's a very like basic, nothing sexy about it, but it's like one of the oldest candy companies in America. Maybe that might not be true.
I don't know about that.
It's been around for a long time. He bought it. One of his first companies that he's owned. They have like an economic. Anyways, I'm not going down the weeds, but Yanni bought me some, which I never even know they had this stuff. Like I didn't know they had it in Canada. Where'd you buy it?
I bought it in Denver Airport.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
But,
I'm
yeah.
gonna eat some chocolate.
Okay, so before we switch over to F1, Yanni, what did you say was your team that was sport that's going to take off?
I don't know. I said like curling. I said
Curling?
rugby.
Okay.
But that's what I was saying with the football thing. In rugby, the helmet on helmet collisions don't happen. It's mostly people getting dragged down and tackled. So like soft tissue injuries happen, like torn ACLs, stuff like that.
It is a dangerous
But that's why I see it happening, because when the NFL fades, people will still want to have that type of sport. And rugby also is just consistent action. Like for one NFL game, it's like 12 minutes of live ball. For one like match in rugby, it's about 45 minutes of live ball.
That's true.
So you're
true.
getting almost as much game time as you get in like an NBA game or an NHL game.
That's true.
So that's why I see like for you pay to watch 12 minutes of actual football, like people running for football, and you're there for 2 hours. So why not go somewhere that's an hour and a half and you get 45 minutes to like 50 minutes of it actually being a live ball?
That's true.
So
That's fair.
You get more bang for your buck. People are going to eventually tune out the commercials.
The game
like,
time to clock time ratio in football is really poor.
Yeah.
Well, baseball
It's
too.
Well, there's no clock.
Yeah, but think about when they're during the actual action of the game versus non-action. Like you can watch the Jays game, you can watch it in 20 minutes if you fast forward. When they do Jays 20 and 20 or whatever,
It's in 30.
The
30
Jays in
minutes,
30.
right?
Yeah.
And that's still more game time than a football game.
Yeah.
yeah, you're actually right. Yeah.
It's just so crazy.
Sorry, but John, what was the sport you said?
I'm going to go with either rugby or cricket.
Rugby or cricket?
Yeah.
George, your ultimate frisbee? All right.
Yeah, fuck it.
That's an interesting question.
Hang on,
right? Like,
I've
what's
gone
the
through
next
enough gym classes where we played ultimate frisbee with no one who actually knows how to play, and no one found it enjoyable. So that's why I'm like,
It's a big. It's on ESPN 8 and ESPN.
It's
like
the big.
5
It's the
in
biggest
America.
intramural sport in colleges.
That's how things become sports.
yeah, that's
Not necessarily, but like, how did the first like basketball game start? Guy put a milk basket up in a school gym or something.
true. How do you not know that? As a Canadian
Naismith,
guy.
right? Yeah, it's Naismith.
You
He
have
put
to
it,
find-
but it was a school, wasn't it, or like a community center?
YMCA.
But yeah, but he put up a basket. A bunch of guys started playing. It became a professional sport.
I really do think spike ball could be it.
All right, I think we're getting too much into this one.
Okay, let's switch over to F1.
I
Yeah.
want to talk about F1. Did you guys watch qualifying today?
No,
Or last
I tried to stay up and I was just exhausted, so I went to sleep.
What time was it?
Well, it's in
It was
Australia.
at 1:30 a.m.
Australia.
yeah, I
So I'm
watched.
staying up tonight.
I am going to stay up to watch the race.
I
tonight.
watched the recaps. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch tonight, but I always watch the recaps of like free practice and qualifying for the ones that are like this late, because
Well, there's not many that are this late. Most are like at the latest they'll go is like 3 in the afternoon or 7 in the morning, like 3 in the afternoon.
Usually they're early. They're like at like 5
yeah,
a.m.
because that's like the European stretch is usually the
No,
best
but even
one.
those,
So
I put every race in my calendar this year.
Yeah.
So I have them all on my calendar. The most are like at 9 a.m.
it would be
It's
it'd be
8, 9 a.m.
It's like this one, Japan and Malaysia. Are
But
usually
Japan's
the
not
ones-
this year, is it?
Yeah, it's this year. It's October.
Oh, I haven't been
I
to
thought
know
you
that.
put every one of them in your calendar.
I don't remember. I couldn't name all the tracks. I was just like looking and then typing it in my Google Calendar.
Did you guys become fans of F1 because of a certain driver, because of Drive to Survive, because of family members? Why did you guys each get into F1?
I
John, we'll
started
start with
watching in 2013 when I went to the Canadian Grand Prix with Mark Jackson. So if he listens, here's a shout out to Mark Jackson. And I'm like incapable of casually watching a sport. So like if I'm going to watch something, I want to understand what makes it interesting.
John, that is probably the best way to describe it. You are incapable of doing something half-assed.
Baseball, points.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's either you go all in and you need to master
Golf.
it,
So
or you can't do
Everything
it.
I've told John to get into, he's better at than me and more obsessed with than me. Never
Until
baseball-
he stops.
Baseball-
And then he's checked
Sorry,
out.
yeah, I was at the game yesterday. I'm like, what the fuck? When did Mitch Garver end up on Texas? Like,
Baseball, I asked you to join our fantasy league. You're like, I don't know if I'm into this stuff, but you joined. Ended up killing our league. I regretted it. You want more chocolate? And then points, which we'll talk about after, but I got you into that, and now you're just leaps and bounds ahead of me on this stuff. I don't think golf. I think you got I don't think I had anything to do.
no, I've always played golf, but
But you took it more seriously lately.
oh yeah.
Anyway, sorry, jump back to the
So so I started watching 2013 when I went to the Canadian Grand Prix, and that was when like, because in football it's very easy to see what makes something impressive. Like you see like that catch from Odell Beckham Jr. Like you can appreciate that regardless of if you understand football or not. But like when you see a car pass another car, you're just like, what is he like going on the gas harder? Like what makes that impressive? And so I started like learning all about like DRS and KERS and everything. I'm like, okay, like this is
What's KERS?
kinematic energy recovery system.
It's
So
when the
basically,
lights on the
so
back
you know
of
the
the
lights
car
on the back of the
flashing?
car, they charge a battery, and that battery gives you like an extra 80 horsepower for up to 6 seconds. And so you can use that to defend like against a car trying to attack, because you can't use DRS if you're defending your position. DRS is only for overtaking. So you have
Just
curves.
explain to people who are fans will know. DRS is when it opens the back.
It opens up the back wing.
The
to
drag
reduce the
reduction
drag.
system.
And
So basically, you have to be within 1 second of the car.
I'm putting the mic away. You guys can go.
You have to be within 1 second of the car ahead of you when you pass a certain line that detects it. So it's like the detection zone. And when you're within 1 second, so if you watch the last Formula One race where you both saw Verstappen and Leclerc trying to brake in the middle of the track, like where there was a random line there, it's because whoever was ahead at that line, the other car would have gotten DRS, been able to like open
and that's
up their
new
wing.
this year. So DRS, it's there's specific zones, but in the past, like you have to be within a second, but you can't follow too closely on turns, because in the past there was they called it catastrophic loss of downforce because of all the turbulent air behind a car. So you had to stay a certain distance back. So in order to pass on a DRS, you need the long straightaway, and you have to be within a second. Whereas now, all of the changes they've made this year. And again, not being able to casually watch, I want to understand what's going on. So you see, like, the first race of the season,
John subscribed to like the F1 magazine and like the newsletters and everything, probably.
Literally, that's exactly what happened. Yeah,
Come on.
No, so I saw an article from the F1 app where it explained like, here's all the new changes this year for the car, and I'm like, all right, this is fucking cool. And this was after I saw the first race. So in the first race, Max passed Charles, and then like 2 turns later, Charles passed Max. And this happened again later on in the race. And so I'm like, this has never happened, but like DRS isn't new. What's going on? Well, the reason is because they can follow more closely now. They're like, you don't need a long straightaway. Any DRS zone, you can actually pass a car if you're within a second now, because you can follow so close. You're not starting from further back.
Sorry, so out of curiosity, why are they, if that's the catastrophic zone before, why did they change it now? When you said catastrophic, did that mean it was dangerous to follow that close?
No. So it means, it's not catastrophic. It's catastrophic loss of downforce. So the thing that gives you grip on turns is your downforce.
Got it.
And so they were saying if you were 3 cars back, it was 35% loss of downforce, and 1 car back, it was 48. So
lengths, you're saying?
No, 48% loss of downforce.
But I'm saying car lengths?
Yeah,
or
car
like,
length.
So like
Yeah,
not
sorry.
1 car in front of you, car lengths.
Yeah.
Got it.
So now with the changes, it's 8% loss of downforce if you're 3 cars back, and 18% loss if you're 1 car back.
Okay.
And so basically, I don't know if you like look at the cars. So they have the new front wing. It's got an area that goes up on the outside, and then on the tires it has an area that goes up
over
on
the
the
tire.
inside.
Yeah.
So what that does is it directs the air out instead of back.
So it's basically the outwash from the arrow from the
and then
from
the
the
rear
car.
wing.
It used to be that you'd have these crazy like veins on the car, as they call them, that it's all these like sticky out points on it, so it looked like a transformer.
Can you explain that? Yeah, I need to.
So it's basically the aerodynamic.
This is really. I'm enjoying this a lot because I don't know this stuff.
I can even say, like, so when I started watching F1, it was because our neighbor was a mechanic who loved Ferrari. So it was the time when Michael Schumacher was winning all his championships, and this guy, we didn't even know he had a Ferrari in his garage that was under a tarp. That
It was like a 60. I can touch. He had like a 67 Ferrari, and my dad tells this story that so he didn't ever drove it because the brakes were shot. He could never fix it. He's a mechanic, and it was dangerous. So he wouldn't drive it because he didn't want someone to get hurt. He wouldn't sell it for that reason either. So it was a collector thing. And he said to my dad one day, because we had another neighbor who wanted to buy it off him. This neighbor was pretty well to do. He's like, I can't sell it to you. And he said to my dad, he goes, the only person I'll sell that to is George. And my dad told me this. I'm like, what? He's like, he would have given this that, like, he wanted you to have that car. I was like, what? Why don't we have it? And he's like, rest in peace, Lena. He passed away. We didn't end up like, I don't care about the car, but I was like, this guy's gonna give me a 67 Ferrari.
Anyways, yeah. So our neighbor.
So wait,
very
Yiannis.
nice
One
man.
thing. Do you notice how they continuously just bounce back and forth, perfectly explaining the story of this DRS?
They're better. Somehow
they just went in sync. It's like one was finishing the story, the other one just picked it up midway, and then it went back. It was like, you guys are fucking great right now.
Anyway, so when I started watching,
all right, Ricky, thanks, buddy. Go, tell us.
Anyway, so when I started watching,
the vein thing, I want to understand too.
So when I started watching, it was back when Schumacher was winning, and like actually when Lewis Hamilton just started in F1, I remember having like a Vodafone like remote control car. So I was like, oh, like McLaren, they have the Vodafone sponsorship. I was like, I like that logo. That's cool. And that's like the year he started. So I maybe stopped watching then. And then I picked it back up when Daniel Ricciardo joined Red Bull. So I missed like Sebastian Vettel being dominant.
And that was like when I started.
And that's
watching.
when he started.
You started with Vettel.
Yeah. So the
Yeah.
2013 race, I think that was the last of Vettel's like 4 championships in a row, and like
Vettel was on Red Bull then.
yeah,
Yeah,
Vettel
he was
was
on
on
Red
Red Bull for I want to say
You've been a big
6
Red Bull
years?
guy for a long time. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
And like in school when I was like the Red Bull student brand manager, like obviously I drank the Kool-Aid. Like Red Bull is just an awesome like brand. So like to like watch what they did, like they were able to go from starting a team within like 10 years, like winning the driver championship 4 times in a row. Like that's
Well, to be
that's
fair,
impressive.
they bought like Jaguar in 2005, and then by 2009, I think was when Vettel won.
yeah. So he won 9,
Wow.
10. No, he won 10, 11, 12, 13.
And that's because what happened was in 14 they changed over to the turbo hybrids, and that's
What
why,
is that? Okay, what's a turbo hybrid?
So the engines used to be V10s or V8s.
I think, yeah.
All right, whatever. So they used to be way more powerful, just straight gas, and they
Well, they
wanted
used to be more powerful.
Yeah.
yeah, they used to be like absurdly powerful. They used to have over 1,000
Even like
horsepower.
the Indy engines, they're stronger.
Yeah, he's been talking about this a lot. With me. We'll touch on Indy.
So basically, back when McLaren was winning with like Lewis Hamilton, which is like it's crazy. He almost won it in his first year as a driver, coming in as a rookie. So he's like incredible. And then he actually switched to Mercedes because McLaren had been botching those last years when like Red Bull was winning. McLaren had been in the tank. So he went to Mercedes, but Mercedes had petitioned to get the engines changed over to V6 like hybrid turbos. And that's where the KERS system comes in, the MGUK, the MGUH, or whatever it is. Those are the other engine pieces that like to harvest the battery, like the battery store, like regenerative braking. All these things were being developed by F1 that are now on like every hybrid car, every electrical car.
So I can ask. So what was besides adding these features? What was the benefit of changing engines?
They want it to be more green.
Yeah, so they're even moving towards, I think in the next few years, they're going to move towards renewable energy. So instead of using like
In 2026, they're changing the engines again, and they're looking at like, do we go into like a more even sustainable fuel? Is it going to have to be more like fuel efficient by like 30%? It's crazy because the amount of they do something like 300 kilometers on these engines in a race, and they basically put as much fuel in as you might in your Jeep.
Yeah.
And they're ripping around the track at an average speed of like 160 to 70 kilometers an hour sometimes. That's for just over a race. So if they can go 300 kilometers at that, like doing those speeds, like up to 300 and down, like very fuel efficient car, and people don't recognize that, but it's also race.
They used to refuel in the races,
They used to, yeah.
but they
And
eliminated that.
they don't do it anymore.
No, I know that. But they eliminated that when the engines changed.
it just made racing very boring. It was like a change, I think, that came in like 2006, 2005.
What was it? Sorry.
they would refuel the cars.
They used to refuel the cars in racing. So if
Oh,
you
they
actually,
don't
there's a
anymore?
video of like Max Verstappen's dad, Jos Verstappen, when he's with Jaguar. They're refueling the car, but it disconnected and it actually like lit him on fire for like a brief period there. And one of his like mechanics got lit on fire too. So it was also terribly dangerous. 'Cause
Yeah,
people, like
pouring gas in a hot vehicle.
and also like
And a running vehicle.
sometimes it'd even start like ghost fires where basically someone will light on fire, but you actually can't see the flame because it was like just the type of fuel they use.
yeah.
It's like jet
that's
fuel.
crazy.
But that just made racing boring. Like tires used to suck too. Like every team had a different tire. Like some people had Bridgestone, some people had Pirelli or whatever, or Firestone, whatever it was. And that would change the racing too. And that's why like Ferrari was so dominant for a while. They had the best tires. They had the best strategy for like fuel. That they would start with low fuel and then refuel halfway through the race to like a bigger tank to just rip again. Made it really boring.
Sorry,
And
why
that's
would that
like-
make that boring though? Isn't
because
isn't
basically
that a team's competitive advantage,
no one could pass each other, and they would only pass each other when they went for a pit stop.
I don't know. You compare it to what's happening now, and it's a lot more exciting now.
This is
Crazy.
way different.
So back to like the passing now. So on the last race,
Yeah, that's what I want to understand.
Yeah,
Sorry as
yeah.
well. Sorry not to cut you off. I want to understand because you guys mentioned that like you guys were both talking about how they can now do DRS closer because the cars used to have veins or something like that.
Okay, so the aerodynamic philosophy of the cars before, what they have now is the tunnels under the vehicle suction them to the road, right? So it's a Venturi, I believe Venturi tunnels. It suctions them to the road. Before, it used to be all the air pressure going over them would push them down. Now it actually goes underneath the car and sucks them down.
Okay.
So when you have outwash of all these cars that goes over you when it's dirty air, your car goes through this turbulent air, and it's like turbulence on a plane. That's why you can't follow. It's dirty air shooting back behind you. If you look at like the diagrams that show like how the air coming off the car looks like, you can see it in like the water spraying off. It just makes it difficult to follow. You lose downforce. That means you can't grip around the corners. You can't continue following as fast. It's like you're done. like F1 cars downforce is enough that theoretically you could drive upside down in a tunnel. Like that's how much downforce they produce. So when you're driving behind another car and you lose that, your tires don't work as well.
Major
they burn
disadvantage,
out.
obviously.
Major disadvantage. The new aerodynamic philosophy is to clean up the dirty air, less pieces on the car, so it's very much one clean kind of flow through. You want it to blow like away from the cars rather than behind the cars. So when they're behind them, all the dirty air is beside them, not going straight back. And that lets you like follow. So like what John was saying in the first race when Leclerc and Verstappen were like chasing each other, Leclerc was letting him pass because he knew I could follow close and then retake him on the next corners after like 2 more turns.
And that's
because
why
he's too aggressive into it, and I can then follow right behind, get the draft, and then pass him. And that's without DRS.
So sometimes advantageous now with this new style, it might be advantageous to be in the second position.
Did you watch the last race?
So
that's exactly what Max did.
Okay, so
Max
explain
went.
that.
Max went. So the first time he passed Charles,
and maybe explain it to give people like some people might not have watched the race, so maybe give a little bit of context.
Okay, so
like,
Max
I'm
Verstappen
gonna have
was
to do one more trip
ahead.
around.
Go ahead.
So yeah, the rear wings they have that kind of like round design at the end, so that also pushes the air out. But I think there's a little more freedom with how like the teams want to like design their rear wings. So I saw on this one article, Ferrari, because they have a more powerful engine on the acceleration, they have a bigger rear wing, which gives them more downforce, and so it loses their top end speed, but it gives them more acceleration in the corners. Whereas the Red Bull went with a smaller rear wing, which sacrifices downforce and grip in tight turns, but it gives them a higher top end speed. And so that's why at the last race in what was it?
Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, no,
Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia. There was Sector 1 was a lot of turns, and Sectors 2 and 3 were more straights. So the Red Bulls were faster on the more straighter sections, and the Ferrari was faster on the turns, naturally. So Max had to stay within a second through Sector 1 in order to have a chance to pass on Sector 2. And so he finally got to that range and he passed. But there was 2 DRS zones that were within like 2 turns of each other. So on the second zone, Charles passed. So then the next time, Max remembered. And so when he went to go pass him on that first section, he actually, if you watch, he closed his DRS. Actually, sorry. First, he broke fast. And Charles was trying to brake too because they didn't want to pass. And then Charles accelerated out of it, and they both kind of like locked up for a little bit. So on the next pass,
I remember that.
That was when Max, he had his DRS open and was going to pass him, and then he actually closed it midway and like slowed down, but didn't break up too fast, so that he was behind him for the next DRS section. And so it was like,
so if he passed the first section,
he was going to get overtaken
he was
again.
Give it
by
back.
keeping in the back. He passed him the second, and then gets the straight out.
Yeah, so he passed him on the second section, and then had to build up a lead from there.
So I
there's
didn't know
Think about
that.
it. So when you open up the wing, it gives you an extra 15 to 18 kilometers an hour. So in previous years, when you had to stay further than 3 cars back, that 15 kilometer an hour might be enough to pass on a straight for depending on how long the straight is. But now, if you only have to stay within like 1 car length, that 15 kilometers an hour is huge. You don't need as long of a section to pass.
So the crazy thing is like
that's crazy.
If you actually look at the same race with like Jeddah last year, because it was like Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, it was like one of the final 4 races that they're competing for the World Championship. Max braked in front of Lewis at that same DRS zone that like Max and now Charles Leclerc both braked this year to try get the advantage. So he did the same thing last year, but that's when Lewis Hamilton hit the back of him because the same thing was happening. The Mercedes could take him.
That's the one where he said he's brake checking me or whatever on the mic?
Yeah.
No, that was when I think they told Max to let him pass.
That was different.
Yeah. So basically it was the same thing was happening at that circuit of like Lewis could take him in like the turns because the Mercedes was good at turning, but then the Red Bull had like the straight line speed. But then Mercedes was still just dominant. So that's why that games are happening. But like this race in Australia, if you look at all the tracks and how easy passing is, this one is one of the third or second worst on the whole calendar. You get an average of 10 people passing in a race, in like the only one worse is like Monaco.
Is it a city course, Melbourne?
Yeah, it's a city.
So
it's
the
a
one
city
thing I
track.
want to say, so I think in previous years, the Saudi track was actually not known for a track that was like easily to pass.
Are you saying the
track that they did last week or
Jeddah?
2 weeks ago?
Well, Jeddah's this is only the second year it's been around.
And I think that was the year. So after Max had to give Lewis the position, it was impossible for him to pass him back on it.
Yeah, but that was just last year. That's the first year it was in.
Okay.
It was Saudi Arabia was last year, the first year. But there's other tracks, and some of them are good. Montreal's in the middle of them, but it's always like good races there, usually because there's sometimes rain in it, but makes it fun. But Australia, it's like this is a real test for the new generation of cars because there's so few chances to pass, and they even made some of the parts of the track wider to help with it. But it's not an easy course to be on. They added more DRS zones, which is like when you have DRS, there's only certain places you can use it. So they actually had 4 at one point, and they took one away just because they're like, that seemed a little absurd to have that. It's basically like you can reduce your drag around almost the whole circuit, and that's not making it faster. Doesn't make passing easier. Okay. But it's like this race will be like the test of like if people can follow, if people can pass. So on average, I think this does not include like the first lap when everyone just starts. But
yeah, the first 2 you can't use DRS.
Yeah, so after the first lap, there's an average of 10 passes by cars for the whole race
in Melbourne.
At Melbourne, because it's not a great track for it. Like Monaco
so your
is like
pole position's very key in this.
That's why Lewis, like when he has like pole position, he's like either won it or ended up like second in like the last like 6 races there. Okay. Because he's kept it.
Sorry, wait, one thing. Yeah. I want to. What's everyone's team? So John, you're obviously Red Bull. Yeah. Yanni.
For me, I like Lewis Hamilton because
you're a driver, not a team.
I'm a fan of him, but like McLaren, I like.
Okay, so you were you McLaren because of Hamilton?
Yeah, and then I like Lewis Hamilton just in general.
So it's like kind of like a Brady New England thing.
Yeah,
people still like Brady, but they're New England fans because
coincidentally, Yanni is also a Brady fan.
Yeah.
George,
I actually agree with my brother. I like when I first started watching Drive to Survive, that's when I kind of got into it, if I'm being honest.
Back to my original question. Why'd you get into it?
Oh, yeah. I got it from Drive to Survive. Like, I mean, I would here and there, I'd see it, but I never found it. I was like, oh, it's just racing. I don't know why. I just never give it the time. Watching that now, I'm extremely fascinated by it. I never really liked Lewis Hamilton, but then Yanni started telling me about him, and he's like, he gets a bit of a bad rap amongst us, like in the sport, but he does a lot philanthropically and all these things.
Why does he get a bad rap?
So
not a bad rap, but
it's
maybe
just a bunch of old waspy white dudes back when he started, and if you look at when Lewis Hamilton first came in to where he is now, like he's basically become himself. And before he had to people applaud him for being like a normal human being, but when Max Verstappen or like the team principals like Christian Horner or anyone else, even Toto Wolff, would have like bad attitudes about stuff, they would get like nothing against them. But Lewis Hamilton would say, I don't think that's fair. They'd be like, oh, that's terrible. He complains about everything. But this guy has to literally be, a lot of it has to probably do with that.
Is he the first black driver?
I don't believe so, but he's definitely the first black champion.
Yeah,
because I can't think of.
But the whole problem is like think about the level he gets held to and that he holds himself to, and like almost nobody else gets held to that, and he like it's like LeBron.
I was gonna say
LeBron gets anointed at like 16 years old as like the next best thing. And what's the biggest controversy LeBron's had? He didn't like condemn China, and he didn't support like vaccines. But almost everything else he's done, like when does he put a foot wrong? Lewis Hamilton was being criticized for his own personal life, not even what he did driving. Like he had Fernando Alonso as a teammate. Fernando Alonso intentionally held him up in a qualifying session when they were teammates. He stopped his car in the pit when they're changing tires just to screw him over. And like everyone said, oh, Lewis Hamilton was overreacting. So like,
what?
This is like back in the day when they're on McLaren
This is
together.
like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, that's whack.
So think about that. This guy, he holds himself to like the highest standard, as does everyone else, and he like delivers on it. And then meanwhile, he's like looked to be like the voice of like, when Black Lives Matter, that movement was happening and they brought it to the grid. He was the guy that everyone like turned to be like the voice about it. And like, meanwhile, you get like Sebastian Vettel, really good guy, but like no one cares. He's just a race car driver and like whatever. You get like people like Kimi Räikkönen who retired, who are just like, he's like, if I could drive and ignore everything else, that's all he wants to do. So he was like not hostile to the media, but just not. Everyone thought it was funny that he was so miserable, but it's like
I think what you're getting at is like he got, and
he gets held to a different.
He gets put under a lot of scrutiny
standard.
more than any other driver in like real world as well, because of the face kind of that helped maybe make it more mainstream, because he was a very like not relatable maybe the right word, but he came from tough, maybe didn't come from as much of a wealthy background, which is a big thing.
So Nicholas Latifi, his father pays $30 million to Williams so he can race and they can sponsor them.
A lot of guys do.
Guan Yu Zhao has his backers paying Alfa Romeo $50 million for him to race.
You win the lottery, you're gonna race.
Lando-
We're going to
Lando-
talk about Nikita Mazepin.
Nikita Mazepin, your Alkali, his father, one of the oligarchs from Russia, they were paying for his seat, and he did not deserve one in the least bit.
And he complained, and the Drive to Survive is on the biggest baby, and then the car this year, fucking Magnussen is absolutely killing it.
Yeah. Well,
Sorry, I
to
want
be
to.
fair, that was like he did.
Yeah, yeah. I want to stick on one thing because I thought about the team just to get this wrapped up. But so to the points that he's making, I don't know enough about it, so I took his word for it. I'm like, oh yeah, Lewis. Maybe I thought he's kind of overrated or too much hype, but then I started watching him. Like, seems like a good dude, really sick driver. So Lewis Hamilton's definitely my favorite driver, and I want him to win. I also hate Max Verstappen. I can't stand
I
him.
think my favorite Lewis Hamilton story is Ricky
Does
bumping
it
into
not?
him at Lost and Found.
Yeah, do you know the story?
No.
I don't know if I told
Oh,
this on the pod, but this would have been about 5 years ago.
Yeah,
Wow.
15 or 16.
Yeah, around that time. And so we're at Lost and Found, and Saturday night it's bumping, and so I'm there, and I'm hammered, and I bump into this small black dude, and we bump shoulders, and I look at him. He had this hat on. I'm like, yo, that's a sick hat. Where'd you get it? He's like, oh, it's mine. I was like, oh, it's sick, man. Good for you. And I walked, bro. And I kept walking to the bathroom. He's like, thanks, man. And I walked to the bathroom. So 2 or 3 days later, and people might have said Lewis Hamilton was there, but I don't really care for F1 that much. But somebody's like, oh, Lewis Hamilton was a show. This is when Facebook photos were still getting posted after nightclub events, and you'd go on the Facebook page and download your photos so you could post them on Instagram or whatever. So I remember going through this album, and I think I remember sending it to the group or something. I was like, hey, guys, remember that hat? Remember that guy I told you that sick hat? This is a hat. Do you guys know what brand it is? And they're like, you mean Lewis Hamilton? I was like, no, the guy with the hat. I'm talking about the hat. He's like, bro, it's Lewis Hamilton. I'm like, I don't care about Lewis. I don't know who Lewis Hamilton. Where's the hat from? He said it was his. It's a Lewis Hamilton hat. He's the greatest race car driver. I was like, my bad.
It's so funny. Anyways,
George would be like, yo, how's it going, man? Blah, blah.
I like Lewis Hamilton. My favorite team's McLaren. I'll fucking wrap that story up.
I think, you know what? I don't have a
about
team. I think I'm going to go Ferrari just because I remember John Nonno used to watch. My mom's dad was a diehard Ferrari fan. So I remember being in Brazil, or even when we were younger.
Was he Senna?
That was
Senna.
McLaren.
No,
was
but
McLaren,
the Brazilian raced on Ferrari.
Senna was
Rubens
Brazilian.
Barrichello?
No, Senna was Ferrari
Rubens
too.
Barrichello. He did not race Ferrari. He was like Lotus.
McLaren, right?
He was McLaren. He was Williams.
Okay, then who was it was either Italian or someone. No loved Ferrari, I'm pretty sure. But then there was also Schumacher time. But yeah, and then that was towards the end of the But he always used to have this red Ferrari shirt and his red Ferrari hat that I still have in my room at mom and dad's that he would always wear every Sunday morning religiously, just sit there. And I'm like, I don't know how this guy watches it. All you hear is every 10 seconds.
It's so good.
I used to get so annoyed, but now I think I'm just going to go Ferrari because of that. At least I got sentimental value for that.
My sister and brother-in-law.
So I'm a Leclerc fan.
Leclerc, he's sick this year. My sister and brother-in-law went to
Monza,
Monza
2016.
2016. Yeah, I saw the race at
Who's
Monza.
the
I got one for you,
Ricardo?
George.
Wait, who's
No.
Ricardo?
All right.
Where's
Ricardo's
he?
in McLaren now.
Australia.
I get a lot of
He's
people say I
Australian.
look like him.
No.
Nah.
Well,
I literally on TikTok. I get it all the time.
maybe
his
skinnier,
beak used to
longer
be like
face.
yours.
Yeah, he's got longer face.
Yeah. What were you gonna say?
Okay. If you had to guess, how much older do you think Max Verstappen is than Charles Leclerc?
How much older?
Yeah.
I think he's younger.
Max?
Is he actually? Wait, is he always a trick question or no?
I think
No, he is
He's
older.
older?
I think it's 1 year.
They're close.
It's 16 days.
Oh yeah.
Was it?
I didn't know this actually. Virgin and I were just talking
Well,
about it.
they're like buddies. They'll grow up.
They used to
together.
race it. You should actually see a video when they used to race karts. They collided or something.
But
and
like
then
Leclerc's been in Formula 1 for how long? Like 4 years, 5 years?
It's been
No,
he's
but
been
same
with
as
Ferrari
Max.
for 3 years, and before that he was with
Max-
Alfa Romeo.
Max has been around.
Max has been in
his
it-
seventh or he started at 17.
Sorry,
F1.
you're right.
And
yeah.
and
Wait.
it's-
Sorry, F1. He was 17.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they bent the rules for him to get in there. He actually wasn't even like a Red Bull driver. He only signed with Red Bull to basically get into F1. So he was in like an independent racer.
So you
He
might
wasn't
not
in
like
any
him. This kid's a
stream.
goat. Like this
Oh,
kid's
he's very-
sick.
Oh,
He's
he's
very
really good.
How old is he now?
24?
No, he's 20.
He's
no,
24 years old.
23?
He's 26.
and he
I
just
think.
got the biggest contract in F1 history.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
I think he's 24.
Didn't he win 2 titles already?
No, one.
And last year's controversial.
Yeah.
So last year's year he won, or last
yeah, last
He's
year's
the one
year.
who won.
And
Put an
that's his-
asterisk on last year.
Is it actual asterisk or is it
No,
public?
so
publicly
he won.
announced?
Okay.
It's an asterisk on it.
It's not an asterisk.
So
He
here's
won.
People, but okay.
let Ricky, you tell me if the rule is there's a safety car, that means something happened on the track, everyone has to go behind the one safety car, and then after every car is released to unlap themselves, you then start racing. they let 3 cars go that were between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. And then they started racing again when there's people behind them that needed to go through and unlap themselves. And they left 1 lap of racing left just so for that to happen.
Do you understand?
The race would have ended. The race would have ended.
What did the rules say?
The rule is every car is supposed to unlap.
It says all cars. But then it said not
so
all.
what
No,
they did,
the race director has the power to make the decision.
This is what
It
I
was
can
one at a
actually
time, boys. It's a
one at a
big
time.
controversy.
So-
anyways.
You can see it. You hear when the race actually happened, and they put it in Drive to Survive too. What happened was because the safety car, in theory, would have ended the lap. It was 1 lap left, and if they had to unlap everybody, the race would have ended. Lewis wins. The problem is that Lewis didn't know this, and there was they were going to stay out on the track. So Max had position, or Lewis had position,
was
Lewis
first.
had position.
and then
There was 3 cars between them.
But they're going though when the flag came, and Lewis could have got off and changed his tires, and then would have been fine, and he would have won the race. But the thing is, Lewis didn't know, I guess, what stayed out, and Max cut in. New tires came out right behind him. Sorry, came out.
No,
That has
Max
nothing
didn't
to do
cut
with
in.
it. That has nothing
came
to
out
do
4
with it.
cars back.
No, so it was Lewis and Max right behind him. So
Okay,
when
sorry,
Lewis
go ahead.
didn't pit, Max went to pit. So it was if Lewis pit, Max wouldn't have. So it was
Max would
Lewis
end up in front, and
Lewis
then
was in plan,
I
and
understand.
Mercedes came with the decision that we think this race is going to end under a safety car, so we're going to stay there.
And it should
So
have.
Max went to pit. While he pit, 3 cars that were lapped cars passed them. So yeah, the rule is everyone passes, but it's not like per se it's a hard set and rule. It's
But
up
the
to
point
the
is,
race director.
But the point is because Max.
Oh, it's up to the race
And
director.
the race director made a decision for the season, the most watched season in history.
For sure.
The closest race the closest race in history, because they were tied going into the last race.
Yeah.
The race director
Max at
made a
1 point,
decision
yeah.
to have the race end with a racing lap
Yes.
versus a safety
But
car.
doesn't matter. But it's sorry. But yes, you're right. And
So then, wait, what happened on the last
And
lap?
so on the last
So-
lap,
let
Hamilton's on like
me go back to
40
explain this.
lap
So
old tires.
basically, he's been on his tires forever, so they're worn out. So Max comes back in. There's a few cars in front that have been lapped. The rule is all lapped cars must unlap themselves. All cars, all the way back behind Max too. To the FIA director has the discretion to decide what makes sense.
Change the rules.
So he said on the mic, we're going to let the cars between Lewis and Max unlap themselves, meaning these cars are gone now. The rest of them didn't have to unlap because they're not part of the race theoretically because they're already out. So now Max scoots up behind him with brand new tires, and Lewis's tires are destroyed. The race should have just ended. He lets them unlap, and then now Lewis has to start just waiting, and then once Lewis hits the gas, he
Here's
goes.
something- add to this,
I'm going to
too.
give you another one too. So 20 laps prior, there was also a safety car, and that was another decision where Mercedes decided not to keep the position rather than get new tires, and Max had new tires. So Lewis Hamilton's tires at that point were already 20 laps older, or whatever it was. I forget the exact numbers. And so Max, he went behind with new tires, and so he was behind, but he was catching up. He wasn't going to catch up at the rate if not for the safety car. But even if Hamilton had pit, they didn't think that Max's tires were old enough where it would have given him an advantage to pass him. But because Mercedes didn't pit earlier on in the race, when Max did pit, you're going fresh tires versus 40 lap old tires. Mercedes screwed up twice.
But hang on, that's not the point. The other point is when they were unlapping the cars, the previous safety cars they did, all the cars unlapped. Cars unlapped.
When there's
for the
30
whole
laps to go in a
season.
race.
So when there's 23 races in a season and all 22 races that had a safety car allowed every single car to unlap, they decided on the last ever safety car of the season that they're going to change the rule.
And you know what
so
happened
no
as a result?
consistency.
Do you guess what happened as a result of this outcome? The FI director was canned.
So, and then also, wait, one last thing. When Max was competing with Lewis to basically, when the safety car goes, you have until the start-finish line to then start racing. So you can go as slow as you want to that point to then take off. Max was pulling up alongside Lewis. Where it says,
that's a thing he does. That's not like he did this one time.
I'm wrapping this up, John. I'm wrapping this up
Yeah.
because Max would go beside someone, not behind them, right? Because if I said you need to stand behind me, you're not going to stand shoulder to shoulder with me.
The rule is not behind.
But then here's
directionally.
what gets announced yesterday. The Max Verstappen rule of being beside someone is not behind someone. You have to go behind someone because he keeps pulling that move to be beside someone at the start. So if I say your car needs to be behind me, are you going to pull up where just your front bumper is behind my front
That's
bumper?
what I would do in a race.
But if I need you behind me, it's if you're behind a safety car,
It depends in a race.
A safety car.
Behind is as long as I'm like a millimeter behind you.
Being behind a safety
In a
car
race.
is not being beside it. You have to be directly behind it. So if he was doing that beside a safety car, he would get a penalty.
No.
But so now they made a rule where you can't follow beside because you're not. That's
it's like the
that's
Brady
stretching
Tuck
the
rule.
rules. Yeah,
Okay,
it's stretching the rule,
when
and
you're
they establish clearly.
crossing the finish line and you cross like that, you're side to side, but
It's
one car
timing. It's
car
timing.
is
Behind.
ahead of you.
Hang on,
There's a
but John,
difference.
that actually
ahead and
falls down to
behind
timing.
aren't like always synonym antonym. Like there's like
No, but no.
Yanni's rule-
that was not a rule. That was not a
crazy.
rule.
But
Max
F1
would do that,
No.
and now F1 is making it a rule.
It's
It's not
because
like Max.
if I can
was
add
skirting the rules.
one thing, it is there's one thing about Max, even though I despise him because I think he's a crybaby and a weasel. You can just tell from the first episode of season.
He's also a young guy.
Well,
which
he doesn't participate
From
in
the
it.
first episode, though, the season 1, I never liked him. I did
Well,
not like him.
hang
So
on.
let me finish the
Drive to
point.
Survive
Hang
is
on,
not
hang
fair.
on. It's my what I think of him.
Yeah, go George.
But what I do kind of respect is if Michael Jordan was on the spotlight of if The Last Dance was aired live while he was playing and they showed everything, do you think everyone would be as favorable and liking him? No, he's a competitor and he just cares about nothing to win. Tiger Woods, same thing. Tiger Woods now is a likable guy, but if you probably saw behind the scenes when he was playing in his peak days, you'd probably be like, "Oh, this guy's a scumbag." Maybe I'm not trying to vilify Tiger Woods, but he did some shit. Max Verstappen does whatever it takes to win, and at the end of the day, if you want to be the best, you have to kind of bend the rules. If there's a gray area, you take advantage of the gray area. If you're not doing that, you're really not trying to win. So I agree with Yiannis' ruling. It should be behind him because again, the safety car is behind the safety car, not adjacent to it.
All right, so
Not ahead.
I'm gonna go with a little analogy just because. So the whole
John
purpose,
defends Max
the whole
always.
purpose he does this.
So John, you're a big Max fan.
I'm a big Red Bull fan. So
What about Max?
If Max gets traded, is not traded. Sorry, if he signs with another team, I'm still cheer for Red Bull.
Okay.
Do you like Max? Yes or no?
I do like him as a driver.
Ricky's really into this
Like,
now.
man, I
No,
don't know. Do
okay.
you like the fucking guy?
Have
It
you-
seems like everybody.
Have you
hates
seen the
him.
movie Rush?
Yeah.
I still haven't watched it yet.
Okay,
It's
you
the
need
one-
to watch that.
Rush?
Especially,
No.
okay,
It's a
if
lot
you
of
watch
fun.
if you watch the first season of Drive to Survive, you saw that like Niki Lauda helped make the Mercedes team what it is. So he's the main. I'm gonna say
Didn't he
villain.
die, Niki Lauda?
He passed
He
away.
did pass away.
Not pretty recently, right?
So I feel bad saying this, but I'm gonna call him the villain of the movie because everyone's obviously cheering for James Hunt in the movie.
It's not bad to say.
So
It's the
if you
case.
watch the movie though, James Hunt is like the cool guy, but also the aggressive driver.
that's
Australian. He's played by Thor.
Hemsworth,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
guy's cool.
funny because like
He was a disaster
For-
in real life.
when you were describing like Max's personality, like and the way that you describe it, I kind of like I remember the movie and I'm like, okay, personality wise, Max is clearly the Niki Lauda
Yeah, a little weasel.
personality versus like Lewis Hamilton's like the cool guy that like everyone like he's the James Hunt, but like you watch them drive. Lewis Hamilton is the Niki Lauda and Max Verstappen is the James Hunt.
In what sense? Like he's like more weaselly.
So James Hunt was like, will put his car where he needs to. If he sees an opening, regardless of if it's there, he's taking it. That was James Hunt, and that is Max Verstappen. Like if he thinks he sees an opening, he's taking it.
Like and even to go to that, if you look at Senna and Prost when they would race each other, right?
Senna's the one that died in that big accident. Yeah.
Yeah,
I hated
at Imola.
Prost.
So, but you say that, but when you look how he drove, he was like Lauda. He did not do anything wrong. He was a phenomenal driver, and if you think about it, he competed with Senna just as equally. Where like the only time with like Lewis that has happened so far, we'll say, is like Max, but on the same team.
I think Vettel had a couple seasons
Nico
where he was-
Rosberg was the only guy that actually matched him on his own team. Right? There's been very few drivers that have had another driver match them on their own team, but like Prost and Senna was like Hunt, like Verstappen. He would be like, it's me or you, and I'm always going to choose me. So like whatever happens. That's what Verstappen
Wow, I
does.
love that.
It's like if
Maybe I'm a Verstappen.
watch what happened in Brazil.
Yeah, you're a weasel
last
kind of
year.
guy.
Hang on, watch.
Fuck, do what it takes to win, bro.
But Lewis, look what happened in
You gotta
Brazil.
fuck it. You
in
got
Brazil
that
last
little
year.
thing. Take it. Go.
Yeah, in last year in Brazil, he basically used like
Give
Senna's
me an inch. I'll
quote.
take him out, baby.
Yeah, he used like Senna's quote. If there's like if you don't go for a gap, you're not like a race car driver. But he basically drove off the track and continued to drive off the track
Who
to
is
make
this?
sure
Who-
Verstappen to make sure Hamilton couldn't pass him. He would go.
I remember that.
This is my fucking
All
guy.
right, all right, but it's like that type of racing that you're like, okay, that's not honest racing. He's doing it because he knows he can't compete unless he does those things. But
But is it
other
against the
drivers,
rules?
Yeah, it was.
Did he get-
going off the track, you can't go off the track.
And he got penalized.
Oh, he
but
did.
And he had to give was this the race where he had to give it back up and he brake checked Lewis?
Yeah, he did it 3
No,
races
that,
in a
that
row.
was Brazil.
and got-
That's Saudi.
The problem with last season was he did the same thing 3 races in a row and got penalized 3 different ways. So they were never consistent with how they were like telling him to stop doing
All right,
it.
but just so
And
so to
that's the
take
whole
that
thing.
exact and I don't think they got into this enough in the Drive to Survive because there was an exact opposite instance at the last race in Abu Dhabi on the
Lewis goes
first turn
across.
where Lewis Hamilton went off track
kept the
Big
kept the-
time.
and kept
Big
the
time,
position
yeah.
and they did fuck all. Like they basically said he had to give up time, not the position. But like the racing he never slowed down or anything. And then
that's-
Mercedes said, "Oh, he gave up the time already when he braked for this turn or something." Like it was
That's
something
the
so
thing
ridiculous.
that kind of like it's hard to it's
The
annoying
referee
what
was
happened.
terrible.
It's annoying when people bend like by the fact that he didn't stick to the rules objectively and kind of took what he thought was the best thing to do for the excitement of the race, which is obviously my objective opinion is it's a smart thing to do for excitement and creating controversy because I actually believe that race ending the way it did, even though I think that Max didn't win fairly, is the best thing that could have happened for the sport and this season because now you have a clear divide of like people want to see Lewis redeem himself, people hate Max, or people are so happy for Max, or people are in it now. Like that season plus Drive to Survive, like that hit like the crescendo, if you will. There's 3 races in the U.S. now. Like the sport is blowing up across the world, but even in North America. But the point I was gonna say was that just to jump back to it is that's another point that when I was watching it, I didn't really realize in the moment, but like looking back, because I remember seeing the highlights and watched it a few times, like Lewis did cut a corner and didn't get penalized for it at the beginning of the race. So it's easy to look at the one thing how the race ends, and you remember that's bullshit how it ended. But again, to your point of what happened throughout the race and the tire changing and all that, like.
Yeah,
it's so hard to
like-
pin on one thing.
it's like-
I just don't like Max, so I don't want him
No,
to
I
win.
know.
I actually don't want him to win ever again.
The example of like, a referee misses a penalty late in the game and the team doesn't get the power play and they end up losing by 1. It's like, well, what about the 3 missed calls on the other side?
Yeah,
Early
the
first
refereeing
period?
of F1 last season was terrible.
So
That's
the
what made
guy
it a
got
big
canceled.
problem.
So he got canned. Like that was legit because of that last incident,
It
or
was
because of the
it was
season?
basically leading up to that. He was so inconsistent. No one knew what the hell was going to be like.
Was he gonna get canned prior to this race?
He was like the fall guy, and I think like
This- He
There's a lot
probably
more
would have
money in it now.
and also he probably needed more help than he got. Like you can't just have one guy decide it. The way they judge stuff and like referee stuff in F1 is kind of a mess, anyways. But this season, it's like one of the first things that happened in the first race was they describe what the out of bounds is on the racetrack. So if you cross 4 wheels across this line, it's out of bounds. The first race. Like they didn't just determine it, and Max and Lewis were both like going all the way off the track, taking the line they want, and then the guy's like, "Oh, you're going off track." He's like, "You didn't say that." And then the next race, he says, "Oh, that's going off track." And then the next race after that, he says, "That's not going off track."
So
and
even this season, though, because
defined
they did define it,
Yeah.
and they said that in qualification, if you go out of the track, you're going to get penalized. And I know Sergio Perez did it in the first race, and a bunch of other people were doing it too. And in qualification, they'd be going off the track for the better line, and no one's gotten penalized because they're going on the outside.
Imagine if we're talking about like the Spike to Survive with the Spike Ball League we're gonna start, and then like there's like 2 kids talking about this on
Rick's
their
the
podcast.
weasel in the back. That's fucking. That's all he wants to do
No,
is
I don't want to
win.
play. I'll be like, who owns the Red Bull team? Well, obviously Red
I
Bull.
knew-
It's
I-
but Drive to
Well, no, they
Survive
must
is
have like a president of the racing department, right?
Yeah, so that's
Like
Christian
Ferrari,
Horner.
the person who runs the Ferrari team is not the owner of Ferrari. They must have,
principal.
like-
Because
No, there's
some
team
that do,
principal
yeah.
and then there's team owner. So like Red Bull is the team owner.
Sorry. Say that again. So there's team owner.
No, yeah. So that's like
That's
Ferrari.
who-
Whoever the president of Ferrari internationally is
Okay.
would be the owner of
And
that
then
team.
there's the president of
and then
the
there's
car?
the principal, which is like the GM.
Oh, okay.
but some team principals have an ownership stake in the teams
Okay,
too.
got you.
Total Wolf is an example.
Who's Total Wolf?
the
Mercedes.
coolest guy in fucking racing.
Oh
Total Wolf.
man, I didn't watch
Can I
Drive to
get-
Survive until like a month
This is
ago.
actually working out really well because you have someone who doesn't know the sport well.
yeah.
I'm very new to it, and you guys are clearly like experts in it.
Yeah.
So Total Wolf is like a badass German CEO dude that's like the alpha personality, and he's the principal of Mercedes.
He's
Very
Austrian, so he
serious-
sounds like
Austrian,
Arnold.
not German, sorry, Austrian.
So he
And he's-
runs the Mercedes racing team.
Yeah.
but he's got part ownership in Mercedes, the company.
He
No.
he owns the racing team.
Here's something you have to
Racing.
establish though. A lot of these racing teams are not attached to their company. So like Lawrence
what?
Stroll,
They're not always owned by the car. So like
So Mercedes is not owned by Mercedes.
Mercedes is partly owned by Daimler, right?
Who's Daimler?
Daimler
Chrysler. Petronas owns a portion, and like Total Wolf owns a portion
It's a
too.
fuel company from Malaysia.
So,
Oh, sorry.
but like when you look, there's independent racing teams, there's manufacturer racing teams, and then there's like like kind of partnership. So Aston Martin, right, is a customer of Mercedes engines, right? But that team buys the rights to the Aston Martin name from Aston Martin to race with it, because Lawrence Stroll came in. He bought Racing Point, which was an independent racing team that was a Mercedes customer, like buying the engines and certain pieces of it. But then he went and bought a portion of Aston Martin personally, and then licenses the name to the racing team.
So that's a manufacturer team now.
It's
not a manufacturer team. It's an independent team.
It's an independent team.
And I think they still use Mercedes engines.
They still use Mercedes engines. Like Renault, which is now Alpine, they're like a manufacturer team. They're owned by Renault. They manufacture their own engine. They manufacture their own car. They don't buy pieces from someone else.
Gotcha.
Ferrari manufacturing team. It's owned by Ferrari. Basically, Enzo Ferrari said I run like a car company, so I can race. Like that's the only reason why there's like road Ferraris, is so he could keep racing. Which is gangster. If you look him up, he actually built a car. Yeah, like, Ricky, you like this? He built an actual racing track around his house. To get to his house, you have to drive under the racing track. Like it was over a bridge. Like he built on this farmland. If you look at the old photos, it's just a racing track, and his house was inside it. So that's how much he like loved racing.
Who's the richest team?
It all
Right
depends.
now, I
Like,
think it's Mercedes.
Mercedes was spending almost upwards of like $300 million.
Now there's a cap.
Yeah, there's 140
The salary cap.
There's
Yeah.
$140 million salary cap, which like with inflation really hurts everybody, but now it makes it more competitive. But like you got a team like Haas, right?
That's bullshit.
So
There should be a
Haas
racing-
Haas
there should
came
be a
in
cap.
and put
Fuck
like
it.
and basically
you got to.
Nah, fuck the little guys.
No, because just if I can add, so then there's like a team like Williams, for example. Williams used to be historically
independent since the 70s
and
basically.
very, very good. They used to win a lot. A lot of good drivers came from it. Today, they're so at the bottom. Like, they'll be lucky. Like they are competing
Fucking
with
get
each
them
other.
They're
No.
lucky if they score
Get bought up by
points in
some
the
Saudi
season.
prince,
If they
throw
have
some
one
money,
racer
just
finish
like
in the
that
top
That's
fucking-
10.
McLaren.
Just like that team in soccer in the English Premier League.
Chelsea, every team.
Man City. They They got
They're-
bought by some Saudi
look.
prince, dumped some money into them. Now they're good.
Williams is
Fuck
a
'em.
family team though because it was owned by.
So
too late, buddy.
here's what I
You
was
don't
getting
have money
to.
in
So
the
like,
family.
finish.
you get like Williams, right? Total Wolff actually used to be a racing car driver. He was at Williams. He actually bought a piece of that team. Then he went to Mercedes, bought a piece of Mercedes. He also owns a piece of Aston Martin, and then he also
And that's
manages.
triple
He manages Esteban Ocon, who's on Alpine. He manages George Russell, who's now in Mercedes, who was driving for Williams before. He manages like. It's kind of dirty the way they play because these guys can manage these drivers and also like control their own
Manipulate
team
the
and
sport,
manipulate
yeah.
the sport. It's kind of
It's a little bit like not really. It's just
imagine
it's not-
if the people who own the Broncos also owned a part of the Patriots and also owned a part
No,
of the
if the
Falcons.
team if the
It's
person who
like-
owned the Broncos also owned
Managed
the rights to like
Tom-
Odell Beckham Jr.
No,
or Tom Brady.
managed Tom Brady and whatever. And said,
but
"You're
then,
not going
but
to
then
play there."
also he owns other parts of other teams, so he has a say in other teams as well, and then that makes him able to vote on stuff for the betterment of F1 with other people's
I
teams.
want to add something because I just
actually
thinking about this
crazy.
meme. So Becca sent me a TikTok a while ago, and it's a starts a video of a girl like taking a selfie, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm really into F1 now from Drive to Survive. I really like the strategy and the business of the sport. And it cuts, it's like the strategy and business of the sport, and it's a picture of Total Wolff. Every girl, like he's just like a objective was a good looking dude.
And it's so I
Is he
did
like the guy Ivan Drago?
No, he's
No.
kind of like I'm trying to think like
Google,
he's like,
just Google it.
he's like Iron Man of fucking racing. I don't know. Like he's like
That's a good
Tony
description.
Stark. I
How
guess.
do you
He's
spell
cool.
it?
Toto, like
Toto?
Toto the dog, Total, and Wolf with two Fs.
T-O-T-O?
Strong last name too. Very powerful.
and it's funny. So I never actually watched Drive to Survive until a month ago.
Oh, this dude's young.
So I only ever saw Total Wolff
And his
like,
wife is a race car
yelling
driver.
at like the racing director.
Yeah.
I didn't know him, so I'm like, oh my god, this big Austrian dude, like he's
Yeah.
fucking scary. And then like you see him on Drive to Survive, and he's just like a teddy bear. Like
Yeah,
he's
a really nice
cool,
guy.
man. He's cool. But like,
I was expecting some like 7-year-old dude with white hair.
no. He's like a G. Like he's very.
He
cool.
actually almost set the racing record at the Nürburgring in a Porsche, and he crashed it out. There's a video of it. He's like,
But it's weird. He's a
Also
race car driver.
long.
He's pretty big.
yeah,
dude.
that's why he can never really ride in Formula One because he's like too
6
tall
something,
and
yeah.
too big. Those guys have to be like 165 pounds. Like Daniel Ricciardo is like Daniel Thiccardo is like his nickname because his ass is always so big. He has trouble fitting in the thing at the beginning of the season,
Thiccardo.
which is so funny.
What, guys? This has actually been a really fun episode. Like I honestly love this, and I think we should do more
No,
Formula One
let's
related.
keep on F1 on this.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to. I don't
So
want
Rick,
to.
I'll
talk
tell
about
you with
points
Williams.
later.
What we're talking about Williams. Williams was owned by a family team, right? Frank Williams owned it. He started in like the 70s. He actually just passed away last year, but they sold it to Dorrington Capital, like a private equity firm. So Jost Capital now runs it.
Jost?
Yeah, I think that's his name.
Okay.
So he like runs it now, and they're trying to turn that team around because basically they like messed it up for like a number of years, right?
Was it related to money or they just suck?
Yeah, a bit of both, right? Basically, like they were losing good people. They brought in the wrong people to help build the future cars, and it just
And they talk about that in the one season, not the last season. I think the season before they brought in this one guy to build the car and like
Patty Head, whatever. But he came from Mercedes, and then they found out he basically was blowing smoke up their ass. He had really no part in Mercedes dominance. And that reason they let him go so easily is because they didn't really give a shit about the guy.
If you think about it, we can all agree F1's a rich sport, right?
Oh, yeah.
You need a lot of money, and even to be a young race,
we can call it a rich sport. We can agree on that. Well, if it's a rich sport, I want to see the fucking craziest amounts of money. Putting a cap on it does limit certain things that can be done.
But that's the spirit of the competition gets. Sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, so it's like if let's say you're only allowed to put 140 in it, right? Which I have no idea how that works. Like R&D, what does that count for?
Yeah, it's like wind tunnel testing, R&D, development.
There was a joke in this season.
140 is like nothing.
There was a joke in this season where like Mercedes has like the best like espresso machines in the thing, and like Gunther from Haas has to go make his own coffees in the morning because they can't afford to pay people to make their coffees. Mercedes can afford to have the best of everything. So like everything.
Gunther Steiner is also a legend.
He's the best. He's my favorite guy in the season.
I know. I would want
everything that goes in, like your trailers, your car, like everything is a cost, right?
So at the end of the day, you got your bottom line's 140, and it's like you're at zero.
But to the point, Rick, I see what you mean, because back in the day, you know, when sports are big, being in a big city like Toronto, like the Leafs, you don't want a salary cap. Just spend out whatever.
Like look at baseball, right?
But you want
cap,
the thing
but
is
tax.
And look, the thing is, like, you want the spirit of competition to exist, though, and you also like being good at something. Like money can hide a lot of problems, and money objectively can make you the best because you just buy the best of everything. You still gotta get the best drivers, but you can also then afford the best drivers. Like when you have budget constraints, you got to be creative, and it makes any sport more exciting because people got to get clever, right? Like in baseball, there's no real cap, but like look at Oakland, man. It sucks they never win because they don't get fans, but they have to get creative, and they still manage to produce competitive teams every few years. Tampa Bay, same thing. Yeah. So like F1, I want to see a race one day where Haas wins. Like I want it as a.
You have to see though, like, so think about this.
Only Kevin Magnussen, Mick Schumacher though.
I want to see Magnussen.
So Kevin Magnussen left F1, and because they wanted to bring Mick Schumacher in, right? But then also the other seat, they wanted to take the money of Nikita Mazepin. So Kevin Magnussen and thing were gone. Like their drivers were gone.
Was that Grosjean?
Yeah, Roman Grosjean. Gone, right? But look, Kevin Magnussen comes back in, and he's a better driver than Mick Schumacher, and he's putting up more points than other people. So people with huge money that let these companies spend $300 million then take away the actual competitiveness of the sport. So Nicholas Latifi, Stroll, Guan Yu Zhao probably wouldn't be racing. There's probably a couple, like maybe two other drivers that
I know
because
Latifi's
of their money.
Brother.
Do you?
I think so.
Bro, we got to get him on.
So basically those guys.
Right,
he's a good.
got to get him on.
They're good. They're good racing drivers, but their advantage has been they've had more money than everyone else throughout their life. Like Stroll actually competed, like would win the series he would race in, but he also raced for like the best teams because he had the most money that he could be put into those teams.
But time out. If you think that if someone is better than someone at this level, don't you think they would be driving?
No,
but a lot of it.
So think about this: Oscar Piastri, right? He won Formula 2 last year. He's sitting on the sidelines behind Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon.
Is he in a Formula 2 still or no?
No, he can't race because he won it, so he's out. You can
what
if you win it and you're in there for at least 2 years and you've won it, you're out. Like you can't keep racing.
That's a rule?
Because
so
they
why
make
isn't
room
he
for
racing
people.
right now?
Because there's no
Beyond
seats.
point,
There's
money.
only 20 seats available, and like 3 guys are paying for those seats, so they're not going to lose.
Rick, think about it this way: if you are Aston Martin, okay, you're just paying Sebastian Vettel, who's a 4-time champion, however much money. I think it's like 10 million pounds a year.
Million.
So you're paying him to have a seat, and then you have Lance Stroll in the other seat.
That doesn't seem like
it's
a lot.
basically middle of the pack. Like
Allison Matthews makes $10 million a year.
Hamilton,
that's just salary. That's just salary.
And then you get bonuses?
Yeah, I think you get bonuses and then
endorsements.
endorsements.
Yeah,
basically, the team winning gets you more money than if you win. So Mercedes being the Constructors
Cup
Championship,
and champion, and like the champion, constructors the teams.
Okay,
if you're the top constructor, you get like a $35 to $40 million bonus for winning.
Yeah, it's like I think I remember getting $40 million or something.
So you and that $40 million gets split amongst the team. So if you win the drivers' championship, you get an extra million.
Two drivers, hundreds of people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like Mercedes has 1,000 people in their plant. to help
They
with
can't
their
have
team.
1,000. You got 140.
But that's the
million
thing.
back.
What they did was Daimler took on some of those employees for their other divisions because now they have to cut it down. So it used to be they could spend and like have whatever. Haas, their team is like I think about 200 people
Fit in a
total.
garage.
And what Haas does is they buy every single part from Ferrari that they can. So basically, they'll take every piece of Ferrari and then design what they have to. So when they first came in like 2016, 2017, they were competing at the top because they bought the pieces of a Ferrari that were already dominant. So they came in with like a budget of 80 million, but just bought basically last year's Ferrari.
Guys, we win the lotto. We win the lotto. We take that 140 million. We buy a team.
It's
We
200
get that
million.
driver from the F2. We throw him in there. Boom.
It's 200 million to buy an F1 team.
And there's only 10 teams. You can't add an 11th team.
They're actually
And
Mike-
the price
Andretti's
is going
trying
up
to.
too because like the sport is
All right,
massive.
Spike to survive, boys. We're back on. We're back on. Cheap sports.
So Porsche and Audi are probably going to be joining F1, but Audi's looking to buy.
And I won't
like,
let anybody pay to
McLaren.
be on my team. No, I'm going to take the best people on my team.
So Audi might buy
Toronto
Aston Martin
Spikes.
or McLaren.
Say that again. Who might
Audi wants to join, and so does Porsche. They got approval from the Volkswagen board to like join. So Porsche is going to be joining
Are
with
they the
Red
same?
Bull. They're all under
company?
Volkswagen. So Bugatti's also Volkswagen.
Wait,
so
are they? What do you mean? when you say
Porsche
joining with
Porsche
Red
is
Bull?
joining Red Bull for 2026 to be the engine developer for them. So they're gonna. It's gonna
That's
be Porsche
different
Red Bull.
than what I heard.
They basically want to
the
join.
mic.
Sorry,
And then
so
Audi is looking to join a team, and they've been talking to McLaren and Aston Martin and potentially like Williams as being like a partner team. And they wanted like it depends what they want to do, but they've always wanted to be in racing.
That's what I wonder.
And it
Though, to
joins
bring his
together.
point, like that's a weird thing about the sport too, because like Williams, for instance, like
Wait, what about my point? What
no,
point?
you said about Williams. Why you said why doesn't
yeah.
a guy buy Williams? Like, yeah, why hasn't someone said Williams?
Someone
You know-
did. Someone just bought it last year.
Oh, so it'll take some time for them to get to like,
Yeah.
but they should, in theory, start to get more competitive.
Last year is an anomaly year because last year was supposed to be what the cars are this year. And
Yeah, they
because
pushed
of
everything
they
back a
pushed
year
it
'cause of
back.
COVID.
So Haas gave up basically saying we don't want to spend a dime because we weren't competitive the year before because they were basically planning that 2021 new cars come in. So as of 2019, they basically were giving up on 2020. And they said whatever happens in 2020 happens.
How's that good for competition?
Because they have to spend like $300 million developing this new car. So
but they
why
don't have the
spend on the
money.
older one?
Well, Rick. Okay, so here's where
That's
it's
what I
good
was
for
trying to say.
competition,
Last
though.
year was a shit
So they took on Mick Schumacher, whereas as much as everyone could be like, oh, it's just he's only there because his name. Well, no, he did win Formula 2 the year before.
And he won Formula 3 2 years before
so,
that.
so he's legit.
He's
So
legit.
you have an aspiring athlete who's sure he's on a bad team, but that's a seat he got.
Like earned it.
He earned
Yeah. And there wasn't like there. I know they made it look like there was another option for him to go to a different team
Sorry,
and
can you
drive
go
to
up and
survive.
down between F1 and F2?
No.
So what happens if you win F1, F2, you go to F1 and you suck?
You're out.
You're gone. Your career's done.
a lot of guys happen.
Wait, you're done. That's
You're
it.
done.
You work your
Hold
whole
on.
life and you're done.
You can go race for like rally cars or whatever, but like you're not racing Formula One unless someone comes and signs you again.
Wow.
A lot of guys. Nico Rosberg won the championship against.
So Nico Rosberg raced in F1 for a while, but basically
Oh.
he sacrificed everything to beat Lewis Hamilton in 2016. And
And
once he
Black-
won, he's like, not worth it to do it again. I'm done.
What do you mean sacrifice everything?
He basically like he like lived on his own away from his wife, so he wouldn't be distracted because all he did was focus on like winning. He
So-
like gave up his life just to focus on the team
I'm beating
and
Hamilton. Okay, I
beating
respect
Hamilton.
that. I respect that.
And-
That's a Ricky guy right there.
Yeah,
Do it all for the win.
So, but wait. So now he won it. Now then he just quit after.
He just quit. And
Okay, so that's different than sucking and not
but
being
there's
able to.
there's like drivers like that have now like won F2 and that they're still not racing in F1 and it's been like 2-3 years.
So what do you do?
You race for like a DTM, you race for
a what?
other
What's a DTM?
It's like a German racing series like
Similar
I
to
can't
F1?
remember. No, it's like you
What's
race
the farm league for
you-
F1 then?
F2 and F3
Yeah, but-
and then there's regional F3s.
Okay, so let's compare it to hockey just because it's the easiest.
So
comparable
okay,
for
so
me.
OHL is like there's regional F3s which is like OHL
WHL, the NCAA, shit like that,
The
okay.
Q whatever.
Then you get drafted.
F2 would be like the AHL.
Okay,
And then F1 is the NHL.
yeah, but the AHL you can play in permanently,
Yeah, it's just the way.
But
rules
the way
are,
it
I
works
guess.
is you can race, I think, for about up until an age
and you
period.
go up and down.
So F2 is like you have a certain age period, and then if you win, like you're basically done because you can't keep blocking people from being able to enter the sport. But
So
F2 has something like 15 teams. So you have
No.
you
No,
have
no,
like
because I looked them up the other day because I was trying to reach out to people for the podcast.
you have 30
It's like-
racers. And like you have 30
Is
race
it?
cars and like 15 teams, but F1 has only 20 spots.
Are you
So,
also-
and how many years can you play F2?
I think it's like 3 or 4 years, but you basically age out of it at a certain point. I'm not.
You got to remember as well. That I
specific.
think that because of the popularity of the sport now, and even before Drive to Survive, you can start seeing it happening then. The sport is getting younger, the drivers. Like, this is the youngest it's ever been. You got, like, Lando Norris.
Lewis Hamilton.
Verstappen, Lando Norris, Leclerc. All these guys came up together. Like, Lewis Hamilton and Vettel are, like,
he was one of
guy.
the...
And Alonso,
yeah.
he's back.
Lewis Hamilton was one of the youngest people to join F1, and he was, like, 24,
How old is
25.
Lewis Hamilton now?
37.
He's that old?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He joined in
He's
2006.
37.
He won in 2005.
Oh, that was
F2.
fast. I had no idea he's that old. I thought it would be, like, maybe around...
And
then
Lewis Hamilton.
2006, 2006 he joined.
He's got 8 championships.
7. He wants to be at 8. Schumacher's at 7 as well.
So he's got to
But
get
the
8.
problem
It's
is...
the one record he basically does
But
not
the
have.
problem is Hamilton, the last couple of years, you can, like, I don't know if he's going to retire because I don't know the sport well enough, but he seems to waffle. Like, he seems like he's had enough, but he wants the title.
He doesn't want to just outright say, I want to be he always wants to win, but it's just the way he holds himself. He doesn't want to do that because then what happens, before when he used to say it brought so much attention to him that was negative, and like everyone else says it and they get no shit on them, but then he says it and they're like, oh, this guy, look at his ego. Like,
I love him. I want to see him win.
So wait, what's the average retirement age for like a top? When did Schumacher retire?
Well, he did retire, yeah.
He
No,
came back to Mercedes
Didn't he
and
get
retired.
injured? No, he got injured after
He retired
retirement.
in like 2013,
Got injured skiing.
2012.
Yeah, in the Alps.
2012,
How old was
13?
he when he retired? Give or take.
He might have
I
been.
don't know. I gotta look that
Might have
up,
been
maybe.
into like 42.
Oh, so you can go into your...
Or no, sorry,
Fernando
sorry. He might have been
Alonso's
30.
probably 40
Like
something.
30.
Fernando Alonso is the same age as Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
What?
Or he might even be like
I think he might be a year older. I think he's
or
a year older.
Within a year of Lewis
So
Hamilton.
Hamilton's
Vettel-
old in sport, in the
Vettel's
sport.
similar, probably.
Vettel's younger.
Yeah, Vettel's like 30.
He
35.
looks, his new hair is long.
I think he's 35.
Yeah, it's like Schumacher retired in his 30s as well, but like he'd done it all. Like he was the all-time winningest F1 driver, and like then he went to Mercedes.
There's also more
And-
races in a season now than there were
Yeah.
back then.
It was like
and
18,
like the
and now it's
points are also
23.
different, so it's kind of hard to compare. Like you can't really compare wins and points earned in
People
a
have
career.
gone back and looked at it though, and it's like basically there's maybe 2 championships that switch hands in like the 80s due to the point systems. It used to be the top 5 people only got points, and then the top 6, and then it was like 4, 3, 2, 1 only. So it was like really different, but like when they go back and retest it, there's
Because
like
now it's like 25, 18, 16, 14.
it's like a big jump between the first and the second guy.
I remember seeing that because I noticed it last week because I think last week because Leclerc maintains such a high position and Verstappen jumped up a lot because he won, but they didn't finish.
'Cause he got knocked out
DNF
the
the
first
first
race
2
or
races,
whatever.
whatever. What do you guys kind of like? I think we're good for time. What do you guys think is going to happen this year? Like, what do you so far?
I
'Cause,
think
like, you
Ferrari's
mentioned-
going to win.
I think there's gonna be a
Ferrari, my peoples.
I genuinely think there's going to be a 3 or 4 team race. I think Mercedes is going to figure their shit out, and Leclerc, Verstappen, and Hamilton is going to be a 3-way competitor.
That's what I'm
competition for driver champion, and that'll be the best thing for the sport in years.
It's gonna be the top 6 are gonna be Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, and then it's more exciting to see
Bull,
what happens.
Mercedes- And let me ask you,
Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes
Yeah.
are probably or like. flip
what
it
do you
around,
why
whatever.
and why not McLaren? Because they were good last year.
McLaren hasn't been. They've been good last year, but it's also that was a year that everyone kind of gave up on their cars. So McLaren kept pushing theirs because they knew it was an easy way to gain a couple. Like the money you put into it by getting that being in that standings in the drivers' championship or the constructors' championship would give you that money back. So they said, okay, to get up to that point, A, helps with your sponsorship. B, you'll get the money you put in back because we know the cost cap is being dropped in. So why not spend $10 million to potentially win another 15? And that's why they competed. But other teams were like, we don't have the money to compete this year. We're not going to try it. And even if we get 1 point, it does nothing to us.
You know what we
right?
could do if we won the lottery? We'd have to win a lot. We could start a separate company, build the craziest engine, spend all this money, like hundreds of millions into
You
these
think
engines.
you're going to
Bro,
compete
what?
on engine manufacturing with
Ferrari.
Ferrari and Mercedes?
Yeah.
100-year-old
And now-
companies.
And now Red Bull basically bought out
We're going to get
Honda's.
Tesla involved.
That would be interesting if they get into it.
Well, there is Formula E.
There is a Formula
and
E,
it's
yeah.
not that exciting.
No.
Well, you know what? We're going to talk to our boy Elon.
I will
We
say
buy a team in Formula
Hang
E.
on. I will say IndyCar is actually like the way it's coming back. It's like I even told George the racing there is better than Formula One. Like a guy that was in Formula One,
James Hinchcliffe.
Marcus Ericsson.
getting on
Indy.
If you watch the first season of Drive to Survive, the guy that had the huge crash in the Alfa Romeo that like spun down the straightaway, he won a race in IndyCar after colliding with someone and his car getting shot like 10 feet into the air. And it literally went up 10 feet in the air, landed back down, and he still won the race. And meanwhile, in Formula One,
You lose a clip, you chip,
you
a
lose-
wing like that, and you're
you
done.
lose a piece of the side of the car, and like you've lost half your speed because it's just so aerodynamically like important, but like the Indy cars, they're all like the same car. Everyone races basically the same car. All you do is change the setup. So everyone is actually on equal footing a lot of the time, and it's the quality of your racing will make you the best there. And that's why there's so many drivers.
Go from F1 to Indy.
Yeah, like there's
Does anybody go from Indy to F1?
So McLaren has their own team in IndyCar that they have 2 race car drivers, Pato O'Ward and Colton Herta, that they want to try get into Formula One.
Okay, so that's kind of like a farm team.
Yeah, and also Mario Andretti wants to join Formula One, and he's put up the money to actually.
Isn't Andretti? Didn't he used to be an F1 driver?
Yeah. And he wants to actually start a fresh team, so it would add another team to the grid.
Here we are. We're here.
And they're not even being accepted.
But this sport, the way it's growing, they're gonna add a team or two.
Yeah, it needs to.
More revenue for everybody, more money.
Actually, it splits the revenue to be less for everyone else. But it like
oops. Yeah, but what about like viewership rights, all that stuff? Like, do
you think an extra team is going to get extra viewership proportionally? So
Sure,
right
good
now
point,
there are
yeah.
10 teams. If you add an 11th team, will there be 10% more viewership?
That's
No,
true. It's
but
not like
wait, time
putting a
out.
city, like
If
a
you
sports
add an
city,
11
right?
team, but you keep the drivers to 20, you add an extra race.
Wait, what?
they're adding an extra race.
So
They already
listen,
added an extra race.
So let's say you have 10 teams, 2 drivers each. Every driver races every race,
Yep.
right? That's how it currently
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
Well, what if you had an extra team and only 20 out of the 22, the bottom 2 people in polling don't fucking race? Fuck them. You sucked in the poll, you don't race.
This
And
reminds
you add
me of
the
that
extra
scene
race.
from Old School at the end where he does the debate. He's like, that is, or no, not Old School. It's Billy Madison. It's like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
And we're all dumber for listening
What
to
if,
it.
what if you did that?
No,
'Cause
that
then
makes
you
no
had
sense.
an extra race.
So
More-
these people are
more
going to spend
viewers.
They're gonna
$140
add
million to potentially never have their car on the track. So
Then
who's
you
going to
suck.
sponsor them?
Be
But Rick,
But
think
then-
about it this way. You can add another team and an extra race to have
More
more
Rick side
revenue.
here.
You have to
Devil's
split more
advocate.
ways. Or you could keep 10 teams and add an extra race where you get more
Vegas.
revenue
You
to
know-
split 10 ways.
Do you know what race they added?
Wait, don't you have to pay to be in this league or something?
Yeah, $200 million to enter.
There you go. So there's $200 million more.
But
That's the
it does get split amongst the teams, which that's
They're
helpful,
going to add a
but,
team
like,
eventually because there's going to be so many car manufacturers that want to get in. You know how many car manufacturers are in the world that aren't in
Sorry,
this?
guys. There's 100% more money to be made with the more teams there are in majority of professional sports.
More sponsorship opportunity.
Guys, look, why do leagues keep growing?
But that's the thing. John made a good point.
Leagues don't go
but
down
John
ever.
made a good point. Like if you add a team in, let's say Seattle now for hockey, there's people in Seattle who probably cheer for a team, but there's probably a lot more people now that are going to cheer for hockey because Seattle is there. So like F1, if they added a Jeep team, like I'm not that loyal to Jeep. Actually, that's probably not a bad idea.
What if they
Jeep
added
people
Tesla? Literally Tesla.
People might. You
You
never
can't
know.
add,
Anyways,
what does Tesla know about
bro, if Elon Musk
gasoline-powered engines?
If Elon Musk
John,
can build a
are you
spacecraft,
kidding? Yeah.
the Dragon X rocket that relents.
10 years ago, what did Tesla know about space?
Okay, but also,
Cars.
why would...
SpaceX is space?
Well, you know,
Why
yeah,
would
yeah,
same,
shit.
but,
yeah.
but why would Tesla, whose entire brand is on electric vehicles, design a gas-powered engine to compete in Formula
Because you
1?
just
Maybe
said they're
to- maybe
going
just
to
to
go
prove that
eat.
how
They're going
No,
eco
there
and
is
shit.
they're going more like hybrid and like more efficient engines, but there's Formula
That's a good point.
E.
So
branding-
maybe Tesla says, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to build
Okay, we're
this thing
speculating.
just to say
Hang
that
on.
I can fucking
That's
do
what
it."
I think. We're speculating here on a lot of stuff that
So
doesn't
wait,
make sense.
so
Let's get out
Formula
of the
One
weeds
is owned
here.
by Liberty Group, right? Liberty Group owns the Atlanta Braves, owns Sirius XM,
And they own the F1.
and they
You
own
buy
F1.
the stock.
They bought it.
Yannis made some good.
So
Alright, good
basically,
point on
they're
that
trying to.
If
They're
we
trying.
buy enough stock,
No, it,
You
wouldn't,
own
it doesn't
a
work that
lot.
way.
That's a lot. You own a
But
lot.
basically, now they're adding the Las Vegas race. Miami is happening.
So did you know they're adding Vegas?
I saw that. Yeah,
Miami's
it goes down
happening
the
in
strip.
May.
I'm
Me and
excited
my
for
brother- me
Vegas,
and my
but did you see
brother-in-law-
the track? It's a boring track.
Is it?
It's a terrible.
There's like 8 turns.
Guys, but don't you want straightaways for people to dust?
But
people?
this is like Jeddah,
Yes.
right? It's like
Like
gonna
this is
be
a Red Bull track.
It's a street course. It's gonna be a lot of straightaways. They're gonna go fast, but
Don't
it's
they
like
go
not
down the
interesting.
strip?
Yeah, middle.
They do
strip.
go down the strip.
It's-
That's cool.
They come around. You know where the win is. You know that like how there's a loop
in between
thing?
the Wynn and the Venetian.
Yeah, it comes down that and then flies down the strip.
And then it goes past the Bellagio and turns right.
Imagine being in Vegas. Like,
I'll think about all those. Think about how many rooms will have a
do you know how
view.
expensive they're gonna be?
Yeah, crazy.
It's also like
I would book. You know what hotel I would stay at? Sorry, I looked into this. I not looked into this. I thought about this because when I was looking at it, I actually tried to book a hotel already. It's not open. I can only book it in August, but because you think it's their time frame. But the best hotel I think, or one of the best, would be the Flamingo or the Venetian. But the Flamingo, even though it's a shitty old hotel, because the Flamingo is, I think is the only one that's not like set back. So like Caesars is set back, Bellagio's the Fountain. Like most are pulled back
it's
off
on the
Sunset.
street. It's on the
Flamingo is
strip.
on top of Sunset. So like you'd be on top of the cars.
The Flamingo's on the wrong side of the strip.
Are they racing on the that
Yeah, they're racing on from the strip, and then they're going on
because
the other
there's
side of the Bellagio.
median. There's a median, yeah. I
and that's
forgot.
where they're gonna probably. Well, they're.
And can we book those on points?
Oh yeah,
See that segue? I'm kidding. No, we're staying on F1. We'll do points another episode.
guys. This was
It's an hour and 42 minutes.
Yeah,
we want to start talking about points.
No one's
No,
in
we
those.
can't.
I can talk 3 hours on points.
No, we're not
guys,
going to points. We're staying on F1.
I want to propose something. I think we should it's been a long time since our last one. You guys came back when we were at my place. We should like
this quarterly.
Yeah. And we talk like F1 stuff because you guys are clearly really knowledgeable. It's actually been really cool to listen to this. Like I know you guys like the sport, and I talked to Yanni about it a lot. But Yanni really just went you guys both went on tangents here.
I didn't know any of that stuff, but F2, F3.
Yeah,
you guys, listening to you guys talk, I'm actually fired up for tonight's race, even if it's going to be boring.
So
This was a really, I think, in general, super informative too. And it's cool because I don't know, you guys are probably, I would say, objectively very knowledgeable of the sport. I like F1. Ricky knows nothing about it. He's going to buy a team, so we should honestly do this maybe middle of the F1 season, end of the F1 season.
When you guys say when John likes something, he really digs into it. The reason I like F1 is because there isn't a lot to cover. There's 24 events, so it's like football.
An hour and 43 minutes would say otherwise.
Hang on. No.
And we've talked about this for an hour alone.
For me to follow F1, it is the one league. There's no other Formula One, right? It is the premier racing league. You can follow IndyCar. It's once a week. It's only 24 weeks out of the year.
And sometimes they have breaks of summer they have a break.
And they have a summer break, but you think about it.
Wait, there's a summer break?
August.
It's because
No way.
Because
it lets them then reset and go fix the things on their cars and catch up and be more competitive.
So they get a mid-season break.
Yeah.
And they can change their cars.
Yeah, for
Kind of like how other sports have an all-star break.
No, an all-star break is 5 days.
they take 2
They take
to
a
3
month.
weeks. They take 3
But
weeks.
Can you adjust your car and make changes?
Okay, but
You can
so
make your
from
changes
Saudi
all the
Arabia,
time.
from Saudi Arabia
To Australia is 2 weeks.
to Australia was 2 weeks. They take a 3-week break.
So it's not that big of a thing, but it's
on any given week of the NBA, there's a game every other day, right?
No,
There's a game every day, but different teams.
And most teams
any
play
given
every
team
3
will play
times a
every
week.
2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
So for them to then take a week off, it's the same in proportion.
Yeah.
So-
because you'll get two races and a week off, and then 3 races,
think
then
it's a little
week.
Even in
because, John,
football, you
you
got a
gotta-
bye week.
Anyways,
you
this is
So
semantics.
hang on, what I was saying about Formula One is
Sorry, go.
there's only 20 race car drivers to follow, and they're not very social media savvy. There's not a lot about them, whatever. So that takes out the whole LeBron James ESPN coverage drama of the Raptors the Phoenix Suns set the most wins for a franchise, and they're talking about how LeBron's not even playing and whatever. So it takes that whole thing out of it it takes away the social drama aspect.
It's a purist sport.
It's very pure, and also there's fewer people that cover it, so you can get the information from easier sources, fewer sources. So you're not trying to turn on a fire hose and drink the water kind of thing of covering everything. Think about football.
Can I
How
say
many
one
people
thing on that note?
Baseball too.
So when you talk about there's only so many people who cover it. So
closer. There you go.
on the Drive to Survive, that one
Will
female
Buxton, or no?
reporter drives me fucking crazy.
Which female reporter?
If you watch Drive to Survive, when I say this, you can't watch it again without seeing this. Anytime a driver changes team, her comments are, well, this driver's going to another team next year. How are they going to manage with him this season? Every single time, and it drives me
Really?
crazy. Yeah.
Okay, I gotta watch it.
Drive to Survive is very just dramatized. I even sent you guys that clip of when Leclerc crashes, and on Drive to Survive, all you hear is for a minute, and they're like, "You there? Are you okay?" And it's literally he crashes, and maybe 4 seconds later, he's like, "Sorry guys, I crashed." That's how it happened in the race. If you're watching the race, Drive to Survive, they're like,
Have you watched Drive to Survive?
it's
I feel like you'd like it.
You'd love it because it's so.
it's reality
I need to
TV.
finish
It's reality
Yellowstone.
TV.
I got to finish Yellowstone, then Peaky Blinders, and then
Right, I do Drive to Survive every season that comes out. I do it the same day. 10 episodes all in one day.
I did 4 seasons in a weekend.
Yeah, it's
And
Guys,
Max
I don't
Verstappen
have-
won't
yeah,
do
that's
Drive to
crazy.
Survive because they took a lot of his stuff out of context, plus his radio messages when he was racing. So that's why I'm saying, I don't like the guy's attitude. He is younger, though. I'm sure he's going to mature and change because, even people didn't like Lewis Hamilton's attitude, and he was, a little more
that's fair.
cocky. But, I also just don't like his sportsmanship. That's why I don't like him. I don't, as a driver, I don't care about his personality as a person, whatever. His, sportsmanship is, when he's during the race, it's pretty piss poor sometimes.
Do you ever watch-
Even Leclerc?
Do you ever watch Ted Lasso?
No,
Yeah.
don't say
Okay.
Leclerc's a
Do you know in season 2 of
bad
Ted Lasso
sport.
where there's the Dutch guy on the
Is
team?
he?
Yeah.
And
don't know.
he says everything so direct. He's like, everyone's like, oh, sorry, we had a bad game, and he's like, I didn't have a bad game. You had a bad game. And then so like, what the hell? And then everyone else like, oh, he's just Dutch.
Yeah.
So like, that's kind of like Max Verstappen. And I know that's like what's the word, like a caricature of it. But like even like the whole thing where he
Wait, sorry, John, does Virgie's parents like Max?
Yes.
Oh, they're diehard Maxes, eh?
Yeah. Jack is a diehard Max fan. But the funny thing, so even when
have to, right?
yeah, even when you talk about the whole where Max is pulling up ahead behind the safety car where he does that thing, he does that to rush the driver in front.
Yeah.
And so like if you've ever met Virgie, you'll know that like she's a very impatient person, and that's just kind of like I kind of look at it like, okay, she's Dutch, she's impatient. Like Max is impatient. He's trying to rush the guy ahead of him. Like, go now, go.
Yeah, who's the other Dutch person?
Like Dutch people are impatient.
But it's just so.
Bro, Dutch people ride bicycles everywhere. They're not impatient. These are the most patient people ever.
Following the sports,
they ride bicycles instead of walking.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah, they don't wait at lights.
Like they're not taking a bike to go to the next town.
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
The thing I'll say is like it's the only one to follow because you think about like baseball, you think about football. How many players on one team? There's more players on one team than there is people that get followed in Formula One. So it's so easy to.
So
like,
basically, we are
track.
comparing F1 to fucking Spikeball. How easy it'd be to follow.
Well, then,
2 players on the
I'll just
team.
say, the only
We'll run the media agency. We'll be the only news source that talks about the media source that talks about it.
The only thing I'll say is the only other thing I follow.
Ball league going.
There is one.
And the reason I like F1 too is like the behind the scenes business is very open.
I own it.
You can see a lot about it. That's like when I follow sports now, I care more about like the business aspect of it and what it means. Like ESPN is the rights for Formula One in the US are coming up for bidding again, and it's going to be like triple
that's gonna be-
what they got on the previous one.
Time to buy
So
time
that's
to
why
buy
they're
F1
pushing
stock,
these
baby.
F1, like these races in America because it'll be way more like
The media, because the media,
the rights will be way
advertising
more
dollars.
lucrative for that, right?
Yeah.
But then for me, that's why I like wrestling. Like I always talk about it. I know everyone's like, oh, you know it's fake. I was like, yeah, I've known that for a long time. But when you read the history of like how the WWE became WWE and what Vince McMahon did, like the dirty like secrets behind it, like the business, the money they make, it's way more interesting. Like people say like that race in Jeddah, there's literally a bomb striking a factory 10 kilometers from the track, and they're still racing when that factory's on fire and you can see it. Well, WWE gets paid $50 million to host one show in Saudi Arabia every like quarter. So they do $200 million a year just in Saudi Arabia. Since they started in October 2019, they've made more money going to Saudi Arabia over 6 shows than they've made from 38 WrestleManias combined. So why wouldn't they do it, right? So you look at the business of like F1 and you see this drama of like what's happening there too. Look at the business aspect. Holy shit. Like it's so crazy. They go race at a track that's terrible, that's dangerous. Mick Schumacher like had a terrible incident there. And then there's bombs dropping outside the track and they're like, oh, we're still going to race the money's too good.
Yeah,
So
I get
that's fascinating to be like,
I mean, to be fair, Mick Schumacher's incident, I don't think was
no, but
track related. He just lost control.
There's no runoff in the track. So if you crash, you're less than a meter off the track to the wall.
There's also no reason for
slowdown.
that to be like designed as a street circuit. Like
it was a street.
When they do the aerial head, it looks like it's in the middle of nowhere.
It's an actual street that they turned into it, so they moved everything away.
Sorry, guys. I know it's completely random about the sport that's going to take off esports. None of us mentioned that. Esports are fucking massive.
I have like no interest in it though.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't get it. But I told DB the other day, yesterday, I would watch him play Call of Duty. Because
I'll watch DB because DB's hilarious.
It's hilarious.
Boys.
But I don't know.
DB can't be a professional gamer. He could never.
But see, here's the thing.
The guy would
Why?
get
See,
absolutely-
If he won the
this is
if he
what's
won the lottery,
interesting
he would
about
be.
esports because so many people play it. But
No,
there's
he
one
gets
thing that
socially canceled.
there's one thing that I think that esports that it lacks, and why it makes sports in general so appealing, and especially like more physical sports, because that element of danger exists in real sports, like life, right? Like that. You know, football's like gladiators, the analogy, whatever. But even like F1, like things can happen. I mean, it's safer now than ever before. But like that thought that you're like going 100 miles an hour in every sport, not the cars, but in every sport, and that something could go wrong, or like that makes it. I don't know. It makes it different, and I don't. That's why I don't know the appeal. Esports is cool. Like it's fun to watch cool shots and stuff. But like, I know I get the appeal, but I don't understand how it's growing as fast as it is. Maybe it's because more people.
F1 is comparable to like the chariot races back in the day, right? If you think about like it's that danger that you can literally die. Not many sports you can actually die playing.
It's a fight combat like fighting or MMA and boxing, or honestly F1 probably.
F1, if you think about the amount of deaths in the sport per athlete,
there's probably more in F1 than in
any
boxing.
other sport.
Like the last
20
death,
players a year
The last
in
death
F1.
was Charles Leclerc's godbrother.
Yeah, it was in first season of Drive to Survive. It happened.
In
That's what I
F1,
mean.
Jules
Like-
Bianchi, he like hit a tractor that was pulling another car off the track.
So
'Cause
think
his car lost
about how
control.
many people die in F1 per year compared to the amount of players in the thing.
No.
We're
F1's
talking like one a
one, yeah,
decade
no.
So
over F1,
It's
2,
safer now
3.
that it's ever been.
Okay, so if there's one a decade,
So-
and there's 20 drivers a
so
year.
Senna-
No,
one-
over F1, F2, F3, all of the racing.
So there's
because the
there's,
death they did in Drive Survive, I don't think that was
Antoine-
F1. I think
Antoine,
it was F2.
Antoine Hubert, which is Pierre Gasly's best friend.
Wait, was
he
it-
was the one who died at Spa.
That was Drive to Survive.
Yeah,
sorry.
'cause
Yes.
he bounced back onto the track and got hit, and that's why
Like
he died.
how many
but then
people in
before
professional
that,
sports have died in the last 5 years? Like in the actual sport.
there's been 4 deaths in
But
F1
boxing,
since
there's only been one guy I know that
1994.
died from boxing, but
There's been 3 deaths in F1 since 1994. There was a death in F2, but like
That's a lot.
But like
considering there's not
Grosjean, okay, so Grosjean last year,
Grosjean
or a couple years
survived.
ago, hit smoked, and that's in
That
Drive
was
to
last
Survive
year, yeah.
season 3. Grosjean hits the beam, and
2 years
his
ago.
gas tank
2 years ago.
exploded on impact. He gets out of the car, like he survives. He burns his hands pretty bad, but like he was in a ball. He was literally in a car that was engulfed in flames.
It was something like for 12 seconds he was basically stuck in.
engulfed in flames. I stuck against a barricade, and he climbed out. It was crazy. Like it's like,
It's a
they
lot
made the
safer.
sport very safe, but still, there's that thought that like anything can happen. So I don't know. It's interesting. Esports, I think, is going to keep blowing up, but I
I think it's not our generation that's going to be into esports. 'Cause
I think it's still a bit away.
I
I agree with you. I don't see the appeal for it because it's like you can watch someone play hockey or you can watch someone play like EA Sports NHL.
Yeah,
like
well,
it's
I
not,
could watch the computer play esports.
yeah.
Yeah. So
But I could just sim the game. I'd be the
I'll tell
general
you though,
manager.
we are
Out
not
there, I
the-
own my own team already.
we are not the generation that's going to pick up on that easy.
sure, for sure.
I spoke to someone who's only about 4 years younger than me, and the way they were into esports and Twitch and like the community aspect of that, like over my head, and I didn't really understand it because like for like us, I always take it back to this, and it can be right, it can be wrong, but the iPhone came out in 2007, right? That is the generational divide of where were you when that came out? Like, how old were you? That will tell you your generational divide of like 2007, where you guys are just about like getting ready to leave high school. I'm in the middle of high school. So by the time it reaches people, let's say 2008, 2009, it becomes the most popular item. We're already in like university. That is how we're using it to socialize. Every other kid behind us is now getting an iPhone from like grade 5 up, and that's changing the way they play. And what's the biggest thing? The App Store, the games on it. That changes everyone's feel. How did we use it? Text messaging, socializing, and then social media.
and you bought
Those
a PlayStation
kids-
for games.
Yeah, and then
That's a
those
good
kids
point,
use
actually.
it
That's a
for
very good point,
games
yeah.
and
Never thought about
socializing,
that.
but their
Good one, Yiannis.
social circles grew exponentially faster than ours did, right? What was like our BBMs were people we knew immediately next to us with BBM because we used like MSN, right? That's
fair.
These kids had Snapchat, and then they would see like celebrities on Snapchat and then be public profiles on Instagram and see everyone on Instagram. Like Instagram was like nothing. I remember seeing people's like Instagrams like after I left university that hadn't used it since then, and it was just because they had those stupid filters on it. That was the only photos they had on their Instagram. It was none of this high polished stuff, all this influencer stuff. So there's a huge shift of where
For a
everyone
guy
went
with no social media, does a very good take on social media. Yeah,
Well, that's also like what
that's a very good.
No, it makes sense.
That's actually a good observation.
I step into it and step out of it every few years. Like I have an Instagram just to like my wife's post.
Jan Solo.
Big supporter.
So I only go on. I think last time I logged in was December. Like and the most recent time I logged in was I think like the end of February, and then before December was like July, and then before that was like I don't even know when. So I don't go on at all to see anything.
You're not missing much. You're
Twitter.
missing Rick's TikToks, and we'll see
like-
those.
But like
I
that's the
don't
thing.
post them on Instagram as much.
It's like I see what it is now and how people have to do everything with it, and it makes me miserable thinking about that.
It is exhausting. I take it from
Yeah.
you. Take it from your brother here. I've like gotten back. I've battled the back and forth. I actually like. I have every app back on my phone, which I always kept off because it makes me miserable to have it on. Just take like a time suck, and Rick knows this. Now I have them because I just peek in every now and then, check messages. TikTok I use a little bit more. I actually like I'm enjoying it a bit again because it's kind of funny. But like it more or less a time suck. But this is the first time I've actually been able to have them on my phone and not waste time on them. That's why I delete them because I can't just open them.
Yeah,
But
because you're the type where it's like you can't just casually do it or something. Like you get time sucked into it.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like me, I'm good. Like
Kind of like me in fantasy baseball.
yeah.
Making
Yeah.
spreadsheets.
I'm good with social media. I'm good. Like I know that. Okay, I've got an hour here. Okay, yeah, I can divide it. Yeah, I got 30 minutes to look on Instagram, TikTok, and whatever, right? Like I'll separate it. But there's days like, let's say Thursday was a perfect example. I was just busy all day. I didn't have time to do any social media. And I'm like, fuck, like now it's a kind of a little bit of a job for me. It's like, hey, I lost a day of work almost. Like not like I put too much time, but I try and spend an hour a day on social media, just like make sure I stay up to date, find the trends, find the videos I need to make, do whatever I need to do, connect with whoever I need to connect. And it's like some days you just miss it because you're caught up in real life. So I'm like getting time sucked in real life, which is so much better.
Something I'll say with like social media, and this is like a thing everyone's like heard me say is like I don't have a lot of friends, which is like it's not true. I have friends.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think people say you don't have a lot of friends.
No, you don't have friends.
People
You
don't
say
say
you don't have friends.
People don't say I say it, but
okay.
here's the thing. I've noticed I started saying it a lot when I started using like social media, because it's not that I don't have friends. I don't feel the friendship from those friends. Because if you go on social
You
media
mean on
and
social
you see
media, your friends disqualify that.
you'll see your friends on
offense to that
social
if someone's your
media.
brother and your
You'll
friend.
you'll see people doing stuff like you guys are my friends, and like I feel a lot of friendship from you guys, and that's why like it is what it is. But like when you go on social media and you want to catch up with someone, you'll like scroll through their feed and be like, oh, look at all this shit they did. But like that is a one-way interaction. They're just telling you here's everything. But when did you ask them how they're doing? Did they ever ask you, are you okay? How are you doing? But you feel like because you checked in on their page that was your like being friends, like that's your friendship level, where it's like for a long time, because I'm not on social media, I did not feel any friendship from anybody because I didn't pay attention to what they were doing, and you would try to keep up with them and stuff, but you're not in the same like lane of how they're doing it. So that's just something I find now when someone tells me, oh, someone like posted something on like Instagram, I'll just text them and be like, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
And be like, if that's something that's so
Hey,
important
I
to
heard you
share,
went to Florida or something.
I wouldn't even say that. I'll just be like, hey, how's it going? Like, check you in because someone brought up their name. And I was like, oh, I was thinking about them.
What you're saying, I think, like, and I understand what you're saying. Like, people are more now like, oh, what I do, the average person, let's say, this is my day-to-day life, and, the good stuff I'll post. So, like, I assume most people know. So when you have a conversation with someone, it's like, hey, what have you been up to? It's like, oh, not much, just working. They've probably done a whole lot, but it's like they feel like, I express myself through my social media, so like I have less reason to be like, oh, by the way, I went to Florida, it was amazing. There's less of that, like, what did you get up to lately? Less of that catch up and stuff.
Yeah, it's also how you're supposed to have a conversation with someone. Like, I know, like, John goes away on a great trip for his honeymoon. I saw, like, no photos. I saw no nothing. But when I got to catch up with him, it was a great way to, like, a great discussion to have, because you can go more even in depth than, like, oh, I saw you stayed at that hotel. Yeah, it was nice. Done. Yeah. It was like he could fill me in from start to finish of like everything, and I can have a good conversation, ask questions, do whatever. But like when I see people and like I see someone post something really good, I'll even maybe make mention, be like, wow, that's like really nice you posted that, that's great. But I'm texting them personally, and like I'll try to keep like
I think there's a difference between like actual friends and then like fringe friends, you know what I mean? Like I have like we all have our fringe friends where it's like they post something on social media, like cool, whatever. But then we have like the boys, like John goes away on his honeymoon. I see every fucking picture. I follow Virgie. I see all her shit. But I still sit down with John at the lunch room. I'm like, hey, John, tell me about the fucking trip.
He's
like,
also your brother.
Walk me through,
I feel like you should be doing that.
What do you like, George or any one of like the boys and stuff? You got your real friends. Then you got the fringe friends. You're like, okay, I saw that on social media. I'm good. I don't care to ask them about it, right?
Well, I always go by my dad's definition of a friend. Is like, would you call that person to bail you out of jail? And like that's the simplest way for me to be like, even then it's like, I'll just make that the best friend, but like friends can be like, whatever, acquaintances. Yeah.
Boys.
On that note, but before we do wrap up, I want to bring up one thing.
The John thing. I was thinking that.
Wait, what thing were you thinking?
The Russell Wilson thing, whatever you said.
Oh no, I wasn't even thinking that. I had a separate thing.
We'll leave that.
John's gonna make a TikTok for golf. What should his name be?
You're gonna make a TikTok
for golf?
Yeah, I think I can do like a golf meme account, but also
parody,
like because I have like honestly at this point now it's probably like 500 videos of like. Anytime I'm on a par 3 on my simulator, I have it filmed. So I have my like phone set up on a tripod behind me, and I have the iPad visually in front of me,
right?
so that I can see everything. I can see everything.
We're gonna be all. Have you been?
What his?
Yeah.
But like I hit a hole in one on a par 3 once, and it was like one of on my simulator, and it was like one of the few ones that I didn't film, and I got pissed. So now I film every par 3. And like also like if I feel like my driver's in a good spot, I'll film it just to like so I can like constantly like reevaluate my swing, because I've kind of like stopped taking lessons recently. So I have all these videos. How hard would it be to fucking post like 1 or 2 a day? I'm playing every day.
So
you could get massive.
You could put not John Daly. Like that would be an easy one. You could put like
John
guys,
Caddy. Ready? Listen to this. Johnny Putts.
I don't like it.
I don't
No?
because that's the only thing he doesn't really do on his simulator is putt.
Yeah,
I
actually,
know,
I
it's
do
like
putts.
because the word putts too is also
you know
funny.
what's funny actually that John said that you and I'm not digress from this conversation. 'Cause I actually want to talk about you being on TikTok and that's sick. That's the reason I'm getting back into TikTok because I use it for 3 things, like workouts, motivational videos, and like quotes and stuff. Because I love hearing like David Goggins or Denzel Washington just like saying something crazy, and like meal prep and stuff. But the thing is, when I'm like ready to go to the gym and get motivated and stuff, I don't have I can never find like the one that I really liked or these like memorable speeches and stuff. So I've actually started like watching like podcasts, like rewatching them and like commencement speeches and stuff that motivates me. And I'm actually posting stuff that's like inspirational so that I can just go to my feed. I'm not doing it for like attention or likes, but then if I want to go to the gym or I'm having a tough day, watch a video that fires me up, and that's what I need. So that's what my
Rocky
TikTok is.
4 training montage.
That's what I'm gonna be making. Those are my videos.
Those get me. I literally sit there, or remember Never Back Down with the dude from Blood Diamond.
Where is the diamond?
Yeah.
Guys,
Where's my son?
I have a
Where's my son?
I have a funny one with that guy.
Never Back Down training montage. You need a good one too. That's a good one.
Sorry, back to you both.
We need
golf.
a name for John. Johnny Bombs.
No, that's like you can play a pun off John, but there's no like golf pun.
How
with
far
John.
do you drive?
Like I would be Jon Daly.
Now
That'd be
it's-
great.
it's
and
like
I'd
in the
crush
air,
shots off a
280.
beer.
I'll say with something with Long John.
Yeah.
Oh, Long John.
Long John the Phenomenon? No. That's dumb.
Hey, it's all thing of something.
Yeah,
Guys, I'm like this is a long one, but it's been really fun. I actually I really enjoy this.
This is one of the few ones that go past 90 minutes that I didn't check out in. Because usually after 90 minutes,
Rick's
I start to
like
check
looking
out.
at me. He's like,
Usually at 90
I
minutes,
mean, you
I'm like,
basically got a crash course in Formula One.
Yeah,
So now you can
I
watch the
promise
race tonight at
but that's the
1:30,
other
and you
thing,
know
too, is
exactly
like-
what's going
I'm
on.
also when we were listening
Tomorrow
to
I
this,
can
I'm like,
catch you up on the results of like
Yeah.
the race, and you can like we can like. chat
this
about
one's
it,
gonna be released like immediately, so
Yeah,
it's gonna
we're
go up
gonna release
tomorrow,
this-
I think.
yeah.
So
yeah. The
it'll
thing
be up
is,
live, which
like,
is good.
when we talk about this, we make it sound so exciting, and then I sit there and I watch it. And I'm like, okay, they're just going.
Okay,
on.
but
Rick,
it's
so
gone
you know what?
objectively, like as a fan,
I think I like the background.
These
scenes more
last
than the
two-
actual
the
event
last 2
itself.
races, man,
The
have
last
been
2 races were by far the most exciting races I think I've ever seen. So like you think about like in Formula racing, like how many times does the second driver overtake to get first? Multiple times in a race. Like last
almost
season, there were
never.
races where Lewis Hamilton led from start to finish.
yeah.
And the only time he was
And,
behind
like-
someone was because he took a pit stop and the people before him didn't yet.
Yeah, but that doesn't even count because
It's
you
like
have like a
not real.
virtual position where they know like, okay, he's in 6th right now, but he pitted, no one else did, so he's really in 1st. Like when you account for that, like the first race within the span of 3 laps, Max passed Charles passed Max passed Charles passed Max went to go ahead, got ahead, but broke up late and locked up, and then Charles passed him again. Like that's the first
been
race
really
within the span
crazy.
of 3 laps.
On the first race, I fell asleep. And then I woke up at the end just for like the final, like fucking when Verstappen, whatever his name is, fucking bailed out. Something happened to his car. He didn't
Oh
finish.
yeah, where he lost
Batteries
power.
died,
Yeah.
loser.
These last even like,
Karma's a
these last 3 seasons, like including this one, like the last 2 seasons of Formula One, have actually been probably the best, like overall years, because people like will judge the race quality. The races, there's been some of the best races overall too. Like I think it was like
What's the rainy one that you go
Hungary or Germany in 2019. When like it was in Drive to Survive when Mercedes did like the throwback and it was just raining and it was like crazy.
They were
all
wearing
over.
the Linderhosen
Yeah,
and stuff.
It was
Yeah,
so, that
Lederhosen.
one was great. Like there's so many good races.
If you,
Like,
if you come out tonight, we're gonna watch the 1 a.m. race today.
I'm gonna be in bed by midnight tonight, the latest.
Why?
I'm running in the morning.
Actually, I gotta be home. I don't want to be
you.
watching out. Oh yeah, we are. I'll be up
9
till 3 a.m. watching this race tonight.
I'm
sorry, just because you're wearing the Loud Luxury shirt, I thought I'd bring this up. So Andrew Feddick used to be a year behind me in high school, and I actually beat. So here's the nerd in me. Like I said, I used to be on the curling team, golf, and badminton. DECA, which is like the business mathletes, I got voted in above him to be like the VP. When I was in grade 11, he was in grade 10, and he had sour grapes about it. So I got that over him. Even though he's a
text him.
multimillionaire touring
text him
DJ,
later.
I got that over him. And he probably wouldn't even know that.
Yannis never forgets. Yannis gonna be at the bar when he's like 60.
And
like,
you know how I did
those
it
guys
too?
winning Grammys, beat him in deck.
You know how I did it too? Someone's like, "Oh, we got to do something to like fundraise," and I was like, "George just met Il Scarlett at like Western, and like after like Frosh Week,
Scarlett?
yeah, you were like partying with them or something afterwards at one of the at, like the frat house.
I can't remember.
That was like first year or something. I was like laughing so hard because I was like, "Oh, like the guy who's in the band is actually my guitar teacher. I could probably make that happen." And boom, I was in. So off a big old lie, I beat
On
him.
that note,
It was great.
boys, appreciate you guys coming on.
It's fucking hot in here.
Yeah. Other than that, I think we're good to wrap up. We don't even need to. You guys, if people want to follow you, they can find you guys. You guys, neither
Don't
of you
fi-
ever.
we'll
You'll
drop
never
John.
find me.
Neither of you guys are big
Drop
on
my
social
golf
media.
meme account when I come up with a name.
Yeah,
We'll get it for you. We'll get it.
I'll share it for it. But other than that, guys, appreciate you for listening. Watch the races. Let us know what you think, and that's it. Peace.
See you guys.